Welcome to Film Club, and a little bit later for me anyway, so it's past my bedtime as usual, but it's a Saturday night, and it's actually a good movie to watch with the climate that's going around at the moment, but I might be a bit sugary hyper. I do apologize as usual for my ranting, but I am here as always. I rant, never. With Sandy Q and Jay from Nerd Takes. How you guys been?
Not too bad. I really enjoyed watching this one, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah,
My
first
fault that
time.
we're a little late today. All my fault. I'm sorry. I had a prior commitment, but really looking forward to talking about this one.
Yeah, so this is I think this was my pick, and now this is weird because I had to stop myself because we've got a Sandy, and Sandy's going to read the book because I wanted to read the book again. This is the first. I know I should have, but I went no.
It's short.
I'm doing the movie. You're the book. So that's it. And I always remember, like, with the, I think there's movie wise, like if you go by budget wise, this is probably the, I think, second, like, or third movie, like, budget wise. There's the 2002 version, but I like the movies. I do like them, but I always like the book better. I think the book stance on how it reads is a much better read than anybody who's tried to do it. Now, the one with Guy Pearce, I like that movie. I'm going to quickly spread out there if anybody not seen the Guy Pearce. I think it's 2002. It's actually a good version. This one, I think, is the iconic one. I think this is why I put it there. So I put it there, and I think the premise of the movie, in the whole of the story behind the story, what you see is very interesting, and it's quite good to actually do this now. But Jay, well, I'm gonna have to go to you. Like, this is your first time. It's 1960. It's I when we watched it, I didn't feel it outdated when you know it's from the 60s.
Yeah, no, I guess I would say I definitely could tell that it was dated to the 60s, to this era, but not in a way that felt dated, if that makes sense. Like, you can tell that it is, but it doesn't feel like you're watching something super old as you're watching it. You know, you can tell that a lot of it is done on sets. Like, it almost feels like a set you'd see. The sets feel more like, trying to think, at like a television type of level than movie level, because of the restrictions of time. Obviously, you know, what they had in the 60s for movies would become what they'd use, like, you know, for TV a decade or so later as time goes. Like, I guess what I'm getting at is the higher technologies always hit movies first before they hit television. So this one felt a little bit like a television type of set, but then realizing, like, oh, well, you know, it's the 60s. It's actually really probably pretty impressive what they're doing. So I was able to really appreciate it for what it was in terms of a technology standpoint, because it's a pretty sci-fi movie, and very sci-fi in terms of, you know, the time travel, the machine he's in, all that, the different eras he's going to. So to see them kind of make it all come to life in these very practical ways that they did was impressive. I have to say, it was really impressive. A lot of it holds up well. Again, sometimes, like I said, it does feel like, you know, like a lot of the stuff in the cave, I felt like was felt like a set from like a TV show type of thing. You know, an old TV show that I would have seen on certain channels, you know, flicking through as a kid in the 90s. So it was just cool, and appreciate, you know, that kind of style of filmmaking. But outside of that, honestly, just really enjoyed it. This is, of all the older movies we've watched, I have, like, don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed all of them, but I think I enjoyed this one the most, and I could see this one being one that I watch frequently if I ever just am in the mood for it. If I happen to scroll by, the AMC channel or something that plays these
Yeah,
old games.
100%. Yeah,
There's just
I know what you
something
mean, yeah.
fun and kind of like, I don't know. Maybe it's just the nerd in me really drew to this one, because I know a few of the other ones we've done have been more war based, and even Cool Hand Luke's just a bit more drama based. So something about this one was just like, it was fun. It had heart to it. It I don't know. It just really stood out to me as to me, my favorite of the older ones that we've watched.
Sandy.
So I have to look at this in the context of the value of the film, and I agree, it's a fun film to watch. I do like the special effects. Now, this is, when we say 1960s, this is 1960, so it's early 60s, right? We're
Yeah.
from the 50s to the 60s in terms of those special effects, so I give that a ton of credit. What I have a little bit of a issue with, and we'll talk as we go through, is the amount that it deviates from the book.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the book itself is an exceptional read. It's short. It's a novella, right? It's about 140 pages long.
Here you
It
go.
went
Here's
by
the
really fast.
original.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that simple cover.
Yeah,
I
just
love
the
it.
Sphinx.
I do, and that's why, okay, even the cover, which I did the audiobook, but it it showed a version of this cover. Um, even the cover and the description in the book of, for example, the Sphinx was so different than the film. And we'll talk about all the ways that the film changed the story to make it, I think, in 1960 for modern audiences. And we'll discuss all those ways. But overall, I agree, Jay. I agree. If I were flipping channels and this were on, if I ever did that anymore, I would sit down
Yeah,
and watch
I
it.
guess
I
that's the other
did
side of
enjoy
it.
it. I really did.
Yeah, there's just something about this one that was really charming and just fun to watch. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's why this is on my list. Like, I think the book is, yeah, this is one of the ones where I think we've gone for the book and they equal out. And this is the one where the book is so much better, but the films, not just this version, are they're nice to watch. This is
I agree.
a bit of a fun story to watch. Now, is it the version to the book? No, it's I would say this is probably the one that, as you say, it's for the era. It's 1960s, so this is different to what we get in the book. So we just go by the movie. Now, this is now I beg to differ, like, on certain people's opinion that this is Victorian England upper class. This isn't upper class. This is like middle. This is higher middle class. This is
I
the
agree.
people who are kind of have got their money like, probably for the, like, this is where it gets
They had to
interesting.
work for it.
Yeah, but you got this is now coming up to the end, or no, the end? Yes. Is it the end? The end of the Second Boer War, or the Boer War is starting. So the First Boer War is a lot of money has come over from Africa into England. So the middle classes have now started becoming that kind of echelon of, like, oh, we've got a little bit of we can get a maid, we can get a nanny, we can get that. They like that southern England have now become richer. This isn't the upper class. Now, a lot of it makes out, first of all, that this is, oh, look at the men, they're all going around having their cigarettes as it opens up. He's got his one maid. The upper class, hopefully we get Gosford Park.
Oh, for
There's a brigade of
I
people. So,
agree.
like, yeah, so having one maid, you're the upper middle class, let's say that.
You're doing well, but you're not doing that well.
Yeah, exactly. You can afford, somebody who is lower class to come in and clean your room and make you dinner. So now, what I find interesting is people probably remember the main star, Rod Taylor.
Rod Taylor.
From The Birds.
The Birds. Mitch
Yeah,
and the Birds.
So he is this after. When was the birds? The birds must be 60, like later.
Oh, I think it's a year or two. I wrote it
In
down.
between, yeah, in the zone. So he
Yeah,
Alfred
it's
Hitchcock,
in the
the birds.
same time zone.
Yeah.
It's
So
within a
yeah.
year or two.
So the movie kind of opens up kind of like very softly. It's like that. So we have a group of gentlemen, let's say, who's been invited over to his establishment for dinner, but he's not arrived yet. And there is a note, a cryptic note that he will like. It is a very a timeless note, I suppose. Like I will be there, but not be there. Kind of like it's very cryptic. But then he turns up very quickly, and he's a bit ragged. Let's say his clothes are torn. He's they are questioning what the state of him, and it's like they're like that, and he's going into kind of the aspect of what they said before, and then it changes on to the now time. So they see him as he was, and then they see him as he is. If that makes sense, it's time. It's time. It's time. Paradox gets a bit weird in this movie because you see him. Yeah, you kind of see him as he like the end of the movie, and then you get to see him at the beginning of the movie. So the whole point of this, he's an inventor. He is a bit eccentric, I suppose, like that, because the gentleman, I suppose, as you would call him, around the table don't believe. He gets this, brings the box, and I like this setup of the what is in the box. Now, I'm going to go for Jay. What did you think? Because it is a very slow. It's a slow start. So when you first watched it, you're like, "Oh, it's a Victorian. It's a period drama kind of thing," but not.
Yeah, honestly, up until just about when he starts explaining the time machine and how it works. So basically, everything you've just described up to the point of the box, it does feel a little bit just kind of like an old. And I hate to say the word boring, but it does come off as a little bit like, this might be just an old kind of slow watch. I guess that's probably a better way to say it than boring. So it feel at this point, it's to me, it was feeling a little dated. It was feeling a little slow. I'm like, all right, let's see how this thing picks up. And then immediately when he starts getting into the box and explaining how they're going to do time machine in this movie, I was just at that point, like, I'm hooked. The speed picks up and it's just off and running. And it's only like 5 minutes, maybe, if even, that's possibly even including the opening credits. It's a really short little slow part at the beginning, but as soon as it's over, the movie picks up. And that's when I think I messaged you both in Discord saying that I was watching. I'm like, okay, this is right up my alley. I'm really enjoying this.
What's in the box? But that's it. What is in the box? It's a miniature.
Right. And one thing I love too, was just the clocks everywhere. I just thought it was a nice touch. Like, it just goes to show the guy's obsession with time, trying to figure it out and all that. And again,
okay, can I just go there?
Yeah.
What other movie does that later on? That's taken
a time
Back to the Future. Back to the Future.
Yes.
Oh gosh,
with all the clocks.
Right,
how
right.
did how did you not see that?
I
my God.
didn't even catch it, to be honest.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. With all
point,
the clocks, he's got loads of little clocks, and they make out, they zoom in, zoom out, and then Back to the Future.
Yeah,
and Doc's got all the clocks. Yeah, it's like, I like that. There's so many, like, I think this movie does it very well. There are, I think we've said in the past, there are, even in private chat, there are certain movies that tried to do time travel, and that doesn't work. It literally, you've ruined something about the movie, blah blah blah.
Well,
now, like Back to the Future, even though you could go laws of physics, blah blah, and this way you can go laws of physics, it works, and I like that. It's like that. So when they do the kind of your movie's about time travel, the book is about time travel, and you're not missing anything else. It's like, I hate to say it, what's that? The Avengers Endgame.
And Stacey, that's exactly what I thought of watching this, because for me, when it comes to time travel movies, the way in which the movie handles time travel, I know obviously it's a science fiction theme and theory, but the way it handles it within its story in terms of the logic being applied to it and how it's going to work. For me, for example, I'm a big fan of butterfly effect time travel. I think that's the kind of proper way to look at it. Um, so I like when the logic and the science behind your theme in a time travel movie is something that, one, makes sense, two, seems to have logical consistency within just the general concept of what time machine could really be if we were ever to crack it. And the first thing I thought of while watching this was like, this movie already does it. So, and just from this next scene when he's kind of explaining time and space and how he's not actually transcending space at this point, it's just that he's transcending time and that whole thing, the level of detail and care they took to creating basically a world of logic around something that's not possible in the 60s was impressive. Fast forward to today, you just had Avengers Endgame, and they handled time travel in one of the worst ways I think I've ever seen in movies. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible the way that they did it in that. So that was the first thing I thought, like, wow, this movie in the 60s honestly nailed it in terms of the way that I like to see it on screen or in stories versus something that we just got that I thought butchered it.
Yeah. Now, our main character, George, that as is known as George. Now I'm gonna ask Sandy before I ask Jay if Jay noticed it. Who is George?
Am I supposed to answer?
Yeah.
H.G. Wells' name is Herbert George Wells. It is supposed to be H.G. Wells.
Be the author. Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that.
That's what they were going for too, because when I looked it up on IMDb, when we had first gone to pick it, a few weeks back, I noticed that Rod Taylor's name in the movie was H. George Wells. Even I know I think they just call him George in the movie, but it's listed as his character as H. George Wells. Like, oh, so he kind of
I think a little I'm like
fine with, honestly. Yeah, I think it works.
But then it makes it a kind of a weird pseudo documentary, I suppose. This is sort of like even him as the author. It's like, I know this is what happened. I'm telling you my story, and that's how this is. Like the beginning of the movie, he's telling his story of like what's happened to me, even though you like, because the beginning of the story, the beginning of the film, he's got his dress clothes, I suppose you want to call them, he are cut up. He's now telling the story of the past of what has actually happened. I think it's quite a very clever. I think like how the novel does it as well, but the movie, I think it sets it up very, very clever. But whilst we got that, Sandy, notes.
It is really written very cleverly. And when I started, I'm sure I read this book in high school because I remember particularly the description of the fourth dimension is time, because I've always understood that, because I had a geometry teacher who had us read Flatlands, and I believe she had us read this. So Mrs. Zeiler, I know you're no longer with us, but thank you. Because understanding duration as a quote dimension. So today I just taught 3 lectures on GPS, the global positioning system, and that essentially is time and space. And we even laugh about references to Einstein and Doctor Who and the time machine when we're considering how to express GPS coordinates. You need the all 3 dimensions, plus you need the duration when you are at that location. That's how navigation systems work. So it's explained in 1895. This book was written in 1895. Extraordinarily well. And that's what good science fiction does. It does the science. I like that it's written from a first person narrative. I've listened to I've seen the War of the Worlds movie. I've not read or listened to the original audio play of the War of the Worlds, but I think that was the same. I think that also had a first person narration. So that must be
the audio definitely does. Yeah.
Does it? So that's a great style. It expresses the urgency of the situation, the turmoil, the confusion, the insecurity that he's experiencing. As I was, listening to the audiobook, wasn't reading Two things struck me about the style. One, right away, one of my favorite writers is Joseph Conrad. Heart of Darkness is one of my favorite novels for the style of writing. Joseph Conrad can express exquisite detail in a great economy of words. Very few words to say a lot. This book is 144 pages long.
Oh, really?
And the book had more of a story than the film did. So H.G. Wells expressed a very detailed story in a very beautiful and eloquent but concise way. And so right away I thought of Joseph Conrad, and then I came across Joseph Conrad had actually praised H.G. Wells. I don't know if they were direct contemporaries, but Joseph Conrad wrote about Wells's law. And he said, in the literary world, there is now Wells's law, and that is the ability to communicate realistic, commonplace detail along with the fantastic. In other words, you believe the crazy part of the story because of all the detail that H.G. Wells took to describe the clock on the table and the movement of the snail across the floor, which is depicted in the book, and all those little teeny tiny, the turning of the days, which is described in great detail. So I, as you could tell, I thoroughly enjoyed this style of book, and I probably will, when we have time, pick up The War of the Worlds. He also wrote the Invisible Man and The Island of Dr. Moreau, a film that will never be on our list of films to recommend.
Val Kilmer gone completely mad, and
my
what's his
word.
face? Oh my God, what's his name? Oh, they got The Godfather.
Oh yeah, Brando, Marlon Brando.
Brando, yeah, literally gone past these literally point. Yeah, if that would be on out. Do not watch. Do not watch.
Do not watch.
Do not watch.
Sure.
Even the actors in that one.
Yeah.
The best. Sorry, just going off completely off tangent. Is the best thing about that movie is the documentary about the movie.
Yes.
Of like
Yes.
how I think, because it's literally, you're like, oh no, how did like nobody just go plug?
You've
thing,
got
because
Val
two of the
Kilmer and you've
actors
got Marlon Brando going off, just going out of their
and
mind.
both of them high as shit.
Of
It's just like, I'm just going sod it. Yeah, we're method actors.
Of course.
That's
But
it.
you mentioned Rod Taylor, who played Mitch in The Birds, and I'm sorry I didn't put the year, but it was in the same zone. Another actor, we keep encountering these well-utilized
Crossovers.
actors. He acted from 1951 to 2009. That's again 58 years
Wow.
on the screen. Most of his acting was actually done in different television series, but he did play Winston Churchill in Inglourious Basterds. I had no idea that was him.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, I'm actually
yeah.
looking it up now because I would have never guessed it, and as I'm looking at the pictures of it now, I would have never. I mean, obviously, he had
They
aged
must
so
have.
much at
They
that
must have.
point,
Yeah,
and
they
maybe
must
some
have stuff on.
prosthetics, all that.
That's it. Yeah, and I just say, because you had Alan Young, who we will talk about Alan Young later. Alan Young is also in the remake with Guy Pearce. He plays a military. They give him a little nod, and he does with Death. Did a documentary series on H.G. Wells, and I thought that was. When I realized that, I was like, "That's kind of cute. That's kind of good." But then I liked it how they were like, "No, we're gonna get you in. Like, we're doing this remake, and we're gonna give you a little nod in it, little subtle nod, because he is a characters, let's say, in that, but in this movie at least. But yeah, I thought, I just there's a lot to. I say, like as Jay said, there's a lot to adore about this movie, because it's like it's early sci-fi. Like, you're not like, I'm not on about like the this is early movie sci-fi, not the Flash Gordon's, Buck Rogers, like kind of TV early ones. This is early Hollywood production value kind of like, and we get on with what the Oscars and all that done, but this is like what sets it up is it's a great script that the dialogue is well written to the nuances of like giving whoever
Yeah,
I can't the director is they are subtle on what they're giving you views of. You know, the set design in this, even though later on it's very yeah, you know you're on a set. Like even in the house, you know you're in the back lot somewhere like that. But the
mhm,
positioning of all the
Mhm.
objects and how it's positioned and how it's all set, the costume design, how it kind of looks, takes you there.
it
And I
does.
think that is
And
what
I
is
think
very clever about this.
right, and I think that's why I was able, like I was saying, you know, you can definitely tell it is sets.
Mm,
But I think the detail and the way they did it and the work that went into it and the way it works in the film is what's you're just so easily able to appreciate about it. You know,
yeah.
because sometimes you can watch an older movie and feel like, oh, this feels a little cheesy. You know, it doesn't, you know, technology wise doesn't feel great in terms of the viewing purposes. But this one, even though it's old and you can tell that it's old, and you can tell that they were limited by the technology they have, because they did it so well and seemingly cared so much to put detail and all that into it, it just works so well.
Mm. That's it. Like I can like as you know, you would understand if somebody said, "Oh, this is shot in Wolverine,
Yeah, one of
California."
those big yeah,
Well,
Hollywood,
yeah,
you know,
you'd be like,
Mhm,
lot
"Yeah,
number
yeah, that's fine."
9. You're
But
right.
they don't drag you out enough
Mhm,
to like because it's all enclosed. The stories, the how they do it are enclosed, and
mhm,
that's why, yeah, you probably are like in a way. This is like it's a sci-fi. Sci-fi don't really work. Like you know, it's H.G. Wells. People love the book. You know, we'll give you some money, but we're gonna like limit you what you can actually do. You know, like even the later scenes, you probably yeah that in you know somewhere in California, it's got to be. You know, it's gonna like they're like it is it'd be quite interesting where it is shot, but I like this because you know it's a set that is well done, but it does feel like a repurposed
mhm.
set.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, like it does. But
Mhm.
that is my movie brain, not my seeing brain.
Right,
When I
right.
first saw this, like in the like, and I'm guessing like some of our older audience, if we've things like they would have adored this because it's
Mhm,
so different. This would have been a movie that would have taken them like you know somewhere else. You know,
mhm.
it's a great 1960s, yeah, say like into that kind of period when the sci-fi got, you know, oh, we can make money off this.
Right.
Um, it is very good, but I I like the setup now of like I can't remember what's it. I'm going to have to look it up now. Alan Young, David. Is it
Dave
David? No, James. James. No, is it David? Sorry, which was the
Dave
old one?
Philby is the old, I think his son ends up being
Yeah,
James Philby.
James is the
there we go.
younger.
David is the younger. Sorry, which one's this one? That's
David,
Dave.
I think?
David. Yes.
Oh, shoot, now I'm confused. I
Oh no,
believe
no,
the
you
older,
can
the father was
okay.
Listed
David,
as
I think the
David
son
and
is
James,
James.
so I don't know. I don't know.
We're explaining it. So like that, like
Father Philby. You can
okay,
call
yeah,
him that.
The older
yeah, there
Philby.
you go. The older gentleman, is kind of he's like his mate, isn't he? I'm guessing he's like
Mhm,
he's a Scotsman,
Mm,
like a posh Scotsman, who is kind of worried of like what are you saying? Like you're absurd. I know you're an inventor. You're literally what are you saying? You're a bit
mhm,
absurd. And then you know I will see you next time. And then they kind of give a back and forth, and then he has these, I suppose, um, not I don't really call it like the house manager, I suppose you want to call it. Where I don't know the correct term at the time.
a state,
It's state, yeah, kind of, yeah,
manager, or right.
yeah, the lady of like, oh no, I'm going to go to I I I'm going to stay here for, and then I think Jay, you got to do you want a smoking jacket?
Yeah, so, 2 things I really wanna buy after watching this movie because I liked it so much is a plaid smoking jacket and a little replica of the small version of the time machine. I want
Oh,
it
Oh,
right
I
on
that'd
my
be
bet.
desk.
great. Yeah,
I
a
want
little
both of
table
them.
set. A little
You need a
table with a
cravat
little
too,
yeah,
by the way.
And
yeah,
just put it
yeah.
right there, stick a cigar in it, and just let it be.
You need a cravat. the scarf to go with the
Right,
smoking
right.
jacket. Yeah.
And
It,
one thing I'd like to point out about the David Philby character is got such a small role in this movie, but they do so much with him. Because
Yeah.
as you said in the kind of that first thing, like it does seem like he's a little bit worried of him for everything going on. Even when they're doing obviously when they all see him tattered clothes and burnt, scorch marks on his clothes and all that, they're all concerned.
Mm.
But when you get to this scene as he's retelling the story of when he's first showing him the small version of the time machine and all that, it's Philby's character who is curious but also concerned. Like he's curious if what George is saying is real, or if this is something that can actually be done, and he seems to be willing to buy it more than the others. But he's also a little bit concerned, it seems, that like, is this guy all right? Like, is he losing his
Yep.
mind?
Yeah.
Are these other guys right about him, that like what he's talking about is crazy? And then they do more with him when he's off screen, when you find out that, I don't want to fast forward too far, but when George meets his son, you find out who's been in control of the estate and wanted to leave it exactly how it was, knowing that, again, I guess we can get to that part when we get there, but it's just another thing they do with him technically on screen, because it's the same actor, but he's playing his son at this point, where he's kind of saying how he, takes care of the estate and all that. There's a lot of care in terms of the friendship from his perspective. He cares a lot about George. He seems to be a very good friend. He's concerned, but he's also curious. He wants to believe him, and at the same time kind of can't, because when he's, if anybody was to tell you that they've cracked time machine or time travel, you'd be like, dude, are you all right? We gotta get you down to a hospital somewhere. But he still is, of all of them, is the most to be like, well, maybe he's got something here. So I just really liked what they did with this character. And once we get to the part with his son, I'll kind of expound on that a little bit more. But I David Philby's character stood out quite a bit to me in this.
Yeah. But I like it, like you say, with the miniature. I think how they did the miniature scene with you, like I can't escape with the cigar. He makes it look like a little miniature.
Yeah, he bends it like a little person.
But then he is literally he acts, and that's why they question it. He acts like a magician. Look at me. This is what we can do. Like, so that I like that. It's like, look, we've seen this parlor trick before, I suppose, like this era, I suppose, is like what the Victorian era, I suppose, is like, the dancing acts, what's it, fleas, circus fleas. That's it, like they kind of got that. We've seen it before. We've kind of, you think what they're coming towards, they're getting into a new century. We are more clever. We can see past this, well done. We're in a little parlor trick. It's all fun and games, but well done. But
it's the blend of a new science seeming like magic that we always deal with whenever new science has come along. I mean, for God's sake, when we first got iPhones and things like that, we're like, dude, how does these things work? It's like magic. And, so that whole beginning of a new technology coming in always gets looked at as, how does this work? It's crazy. It's almost like magic. But then there's always those scientific minds like, it's this, and that. So I also liked how they played with that, because I picked up on that as well. A bunch of scientific minds just poking holes in it to be like this. Well, I'll continue on. I got another thought that goes with that, but it comes later in the movie, so I don't want to jump ahead too much.
Ask me how this storyline is handled in the book.
Yes, I am curious of that.
It's not. This storyline does not exist in the book.
Really?
So the book, which I do, by the way, I do like the James and David storyline in the film. I do. I think it's quite interesting. I don't like the way, I do think that the film is a very serious commentary on war, and more so World War I, World War II than the Boer Wars. But which obviously doesn't exist in the book either. The book was
right.
written in 1895. The World Wars hadn't happened yet, as we know them. But I do like the way it's handled in the film. The book, again, it actually, it's a short book, but even without that storyline, it tells much more of a story. The book is focused much more on the time traveler and him being alone much more and exploring, rather than right away connecting with Weena, and it's him and Weena the whole time. I enjoyed the book where you have an explorer who is alone and frightened a bit, and excited a bit, but who's made this journey himself and has to figure out what to do next. The book spends a lot of time on that.
Interesting.
I think it kind of it does it very vague, I suppose, in the next scenes, because in the next scenes, like after David or James, can't remember like who goes, goes off. He goes into his secret room, I suppose, like his locked room, and then you find out the miniature is not a miniature; he's actually built it. Things like that. And then when he actually decides to go forward in time, and this is the thing is because I think one of them says, "Would you go back? And what would you change?" And no, I want to go to the future. He's all about I want to see what is to come. And that I suppose the loneliness they don't play so much because of time constraints. I guess that, but this is when you now get the real, I suppose, voiceover. You get the main character now. He's talking to you. He's literally explaining, the machine and all that. So, yeah.
And there's one little thing we glossed over too that I think was interesting because I picked up on the dialogue, but didn't put a ton into it until kind of things progress in the movie. But as he's explaining it to the, the four gentlemen who were there, I think it was the Sebastian Cabot's character. He's, kind of brushes him off like, this is all nonsense. Like, it was a good parlor trick, whatever. This is all nonsense. I've got contracts with, weapons companies and stuff like that who want to use, this is where you should be applying your mind and your science and all that. And it really deflates George's character. And you kind of hear him, I think it's at this point where he might be talking with Philby at that point or to somebody where he says, where he wants to go forward is because he feels like he's wasted in his time because all people want to do is just have, use the intelligence for war and all people are
to
doing
blow
it.
Things up. Yep.
Right, exactly. So it's like, even when these guys are presented with a mind-blowing piece of technology that could change the way, humanity even just exists on Earth, the only thing he can say is, nonsense, just focus on making weapons. It's just such a deflating thing for him to make him feel like he's an alien in his own time, which then obviously is what makes him want to progress forward. And as we see what he keeps running into as he moves forward, that then there comes like the theme of war and humanity and its unavoidable nature, which I did think was very well done, honestly.
Yeah, I think there's, I part agree and I disagree, and I will get on that later about the nuance of the movie and the book because I'm guessing, because I've read the book, I'm guessing me and Sandy are going to have a different conclusion than you do about the movie. But I would say if you say you're like 60% right, but the book goes into it differently of how you are supposed to, I suppose, describe the movie, your own interpretation to it. But I completely agree, like what you said, like that. But yeah, with the movie, I think this is some little bit clever things, and I think the next bit is silly. And my girlfriend hated it. She was like, "Yeah, but they would have changed the mannequin." And I'm like, no, but you'd like that, and I would like that the mannequin.
But wait,
and I was like, but
things like that. Yeah,
that's also not in the book.
Yeah,
but I also like that part, and
I
here's
love
why.
that. Yeah,
and now I know it goes, hundreds and hundreds of years, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
but
you're going to change the mannequin, the face, the mannequin, actual face, not the mannequin position, the things. But I actually liked it, like you said.
I don't know.
Liked
There are a few stores like the ones that I don't know. It just reminded me of like, some of the old department stores around where I grew up that had literally the same facades and probably the same mannequins from the late 1800s all the way to the 1990s when they tore the buildings down in downtown Baltimore. So I really like that. I know it's not, going to be there for thousands of years, but at least through some of the decades of fashion. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I drive by places that have the same stuff in the same windows for 100 years. I really do. So I know it's a device, but I really like
I like how they I say it's not in the book, but I like that visualization because as he's going, that's what he's seeing. That is, it's a clever effect by the director going, how can we
100%.
give it how can we do a perceive of time with not showing the buildings?
Right.
You know, because they could have gone like, you know, you could show the up and downs and all like that, you know, like happened. But this is literally women's fashion.
Well,
And that is a great one. Like men's fashion wouldn't work, but women's fashion, you know, like the skirts getting higher and higher and higher, you know, a little bit of showing an ankle. Like that. And I like that, you know, it's great to show. I liked it because it really does give you that perceiving of time straight away from like, I think he goes a year, then he goes to like the ninth first like he goes to the end of the first World War. So he starts at 90, he goes a year, then he goes, let's see what it is in like, and then he goes to the 1918, 1917, I think it is. So he's at the, you
something
know,
like that.
Yeah. So it's now the end of the, well, to the end of the First World War. And he's got out of his house, and it's like it's derelict, let's say that.
And I liked everything about this, the way that they tried to visually show time travel in this. Again, clever writing in terms of kind of using the technologies available to you at that point. I liked how they decided to just make it a thing about time, not so much transcending space. Because if you look at, you know, some other examples of sci-fi and TV and film, there's sometimes these trippy, you know, scenes of whatever vehicle you're in or however you are, you know, using to go through time, warp holes and all these visual things that try to help show, you know, what it would look like. Look at, you know, the quantum realm and all that stuff that they do in Endgame and all those things, all these crazy fancy visuals. And in this, they figured, well, we obviously they can't do anything like that given the technology. So they keep it so simple. They have the thing stationary, but everything around him changes in a very realistic way. Plants bloom and die and bloom again, and the snail moves at a rapid pace. That, you know, obviously a snail that, like, all those little the candle melts a little bit the first time he just pushes the knob. He notices that, oh, I did transcend time. I did go forward in time because I just lit that candle. Now it's a quarter of the way from being done. All those little ways that they decided this is how we're going to show time travel again, and then the mannequin and all that, the boarding of the boarding up of his windows as he's sitting there watching, you know, one board go up at a time. All just these really clever, practical ways to show time travel that I really liked it. One, from the standpoint of just it worked visually. Two, I thought it was a really clever way to use the abilities and technology you had at that time.
Yeah, it is. It's a very visual, clever kind of, we like, this is where modern and like not old, but just kind of great writing has got things. And I say modern because modern now thing, and it is that
well modern now relies so much on the technology.
And it's like that. This is no, like, hardly any CGI. This is literally it's a time lapse. We are time lapse, time lapse. And now, like as you said, like the, you know,
miniatures. They use miniatures so much too. I mean, it's brilliant the way that they do it.
But this is like where it's a very cleverly done. It's like, like I don't need that oversaturation, and I think that is where this went very well. Not, you know, like as a movie, is you don't have to like, I'm a time traveler. Boom! This is what happens in time travel.
Warp hole and quantum realm. And all that stuff.
It's like, what is going?
Simple.
No, it's literally what you're seeing is literally just that presence of time. The presence of time is moving on, and it is
the passage of time, right? Like that. It was just such a brilliant way to do it. And then again, I hate to keep comparing it to things nowadays, but you know, you look at Endgame and all that. You know, they're in the quantum realm and they're shrinking. And
can we stop looking at Endgame, please?
We might change it. And the dish of Endgame.
Well, it's just like you have such a perfect example of a time travel movie and then such a bad example of one. And you know, for all the on-screen stuff and visuals, you know, that cost them millions to do to try to show their point or their version of it all, it's nothing in comparison.
But that is the thing, like when you have this movie, that is like time travel shouldn't work as a movie. Yeah, there are very limited movies that do it. It's because your brain, the limited, like, we're not physicists, we're not biologists or whatever, your brain goes into, oh, could that work? And it goes into that. This doesn't need that. It's like when Back to the Future doesn't need that. It's like it's a movie you can enjoy. Where like Endgame, and I'm gonna say it makes your brain go, oh, that's stupid. That's stupid. Whereas this doesn't do that. Now, if you rip this apart, as you were being a physicist, I'm guessing you would go, that couldn't work, that couldn't work, that couldn't work, that couldn't work. But you would have to do it stage by stage. You would have to do it. And I'm guessing you could do it in Back to the Future. Everybody, hopefully everybody adores. I'm going to say everybody adores. I'm hoping everybody adores Back to the Future.
Everyone should adore.
Everybody should, yes, adore. And I'm 100%. If I watched that and went for science brain, I'm dumb, science brain, and didn't enjoy the movie, I could literally rip that apart. I could rip it apart 100%, you know. But as a movie goer, as an audience, I want to be entertained, you know. You want to, this does that. Well, this doesn't take out that element. And it's even to the point where like we're now in and I think it's kind of clever, like we're in, like I think it's 1917 1918, I can't remember, is like where they introduced a character you've already seen. And how they perceive into the streets. The streets haven't changed that much. They just added. It's still a backlot. You can see that. They don't show you a lot, but now you get the next part of the journey where we're going on. We have a uniformed officer. You know what is going on, and he sees him as his old friend. And I like this, like the steppers going on. It gives it what the movie is trying to tell is the conflict, you know, because in the first one with All the Gentlemen, they make a point about the war. They like, oh, you know that. So in the next bit, he goes, oh, I'm so pissed off with war. I'm so annoyed. I need like nobody appreciates who I. If I go further into time, they are going to be, I suppose he's on about more enlightened. They're going to appreciate what my science is.
Right. It's like he's hoping that this will be the final war and that there's peace on the other side of it type of thing.
People are going to, like I say, enlightenment. People, politicians, war-hungered, warmongers are going to grow up. That literally, it can't last. Like we've had the Victorian, this is the end of the Victorian era. The next century, people are going to understand what we can do. We have science now. We can go to the heavens. We can do whatever we want. And then he realizes, he sees his old friend, and he calls out, who's in in an officer's uniform, and he kind of goes, like, I'm gonna butcher it again. I'm gonna say this is James. And he's like, David. It's like that. Is it?
No, this is James.
Yes. Well, no. Yes, I do believe this is James.
Yeah, and he calls him David. And he's like, hello. You know, he's a bit like, oh, do you know that was my
oh, that's right. Name. That's right. Yep.
And he's like, yeah, my father died a few years ago in the war. And he gets you see that disheartened. I'm not just like I've not just lost my friend, but there's another war.
Right.
Why are we at war once again? That has not just dragged my friend in, it's dragged his son in.
And it's I love how they do it with just the look. There's no like dialogue of, oh no, there's still like there's nothing, like it's just that look. And in that look, you can see the deflation of, like you said, one, the mourning of damn, I lost my friend, I wasn't here for his death. And two, there's still war, like that deflated feeling of like, I thought coming to the future would be a time of peace and enlightenment, and it's still not there. We're still fighting all these years later. And it's just that idea of like all everything I've done so far to this point just to get ahead. And it's like, for what? Get ahead in time, that is. And it's like, for what? There's still war going on. And he just kind of has that little face of just deflation that I thought was really well done. Great in the acting and great in the direction too.
There's another theme here too. So it's the theme of a time traveler can't have friends. Just like the Doctor, just like Arwen in Lord of the Rings. Because they will outlive all of their friends if he indeed is is going to be a true time traveler. And I think this scene, that struck me actually more than the war story, because again, that part was so different in the book, and this part did not exist in the book. But I saw that realization of, wait, no, my friend died in a war. Even if he hadn't died in a war, if the time travel continues to travel, he will be in a place and time where everyone he knew and loved is gone.
Right.
And what's that going to do to him, and how's that going to impact him?
Yeah. But I think it's that morality of like, if you were a time traveler, like if you could do, like, not like Highlander, where like they go like you're you could outlive everyone. You shouldn't have that commitment because it's bad on them. But this time traveler, you could get possessed, like I'm not possessed, but obsessed. Sorry, obsessed with that being, because you can then just keep going back. You can't give up. They've died. You have that grief. You have that realization,
where
but
you
you always
can't
go back.
save them, no matter how many times you go back. You can't save them. You can't do it.
Yeah, even like if they grow old, you've got to, like, they die, on their deathbed, you've got to say goodbye. But then you can say hello again.
Right.
And it's
that's
literally that's a head
that addiction almost of time travel that could happen with it. Because look at any of us who experience loss in life. No matter how much time we spend with the person we lose, the first thing I think most of us think when we lose somebody is, I wish I just spent a little bit more time with them. And imagine if you had the capability of doing that, the addiction that would create, the mental, issues that would create. It's a fascinating thing.
I said I was going to call them yesterday, and I never did.
Right.
Yep.
And then look what happened. Like, oh, am I going to meet up from a drink? That kind of thing. It's just that everybody's got it. Like, everybody in chats had that moment of like when somebody's close to them has passed, and then they've gone, oh, I said I was going to do this, and I never did it, and it eats at you. It eats at you. Like, it's like it's your own brain. But you can imagine, as you say, like time travel, you're just going to go back. Like, say it's right. Yeah, you wouldn't make friends. You couldn't. You have to be. And as Sandy said, some of the doctors are very. No, you're my companion. I'm not going to be like this later on. And they messed it up. But that whole boom, there's a barrier. There's a barrier, and there's a reason why that barrier is there. And I like that, like with Doctor Who, certain ones. But this, I think, like,
time.
I like
the
that
doctor
kind of
can't
premise.
change. And not to bring the ridiculous into it, okay? But another film about time travel is Groundhog Day. And there is in one of the vignettes, there's like 6 or 7 different storylines, but one of the storylines is, Phil ignoring a tramp on the street who eventually dies. And he ignores him through several of the days, the repeated days. But then he realizes, well, hey, I'm going to come back tomorrow. I can do something to help him. And over time, he invests time in feeding the guy. He goes out and learns CPR so he can bring him back. But every time he dies. And as part of that story, and I hope maybe Groundhog Day is not on our list, but maybe we should put it there, because in the maybe 12th, 15th, 29th day that he tries to save this guy, he's so angry, and he's at the hospital, and the nurse has to say to him, Phil, sometimes people just die. Because he wanted to know, okay, what killed him this time? Because I learned CPR and I fed him, so he wasn't hungry, and I did all these things. And the nurse says, sometimes people just die.
Now, I don't normally do this, but just because of what you just said, have you both watched the remake
Of this
movie?
No,
no.
This is the first I've seen of any of them.
Okay. Now, I would recommend it because if you're going by movie premise, it's actually probably a better movie setup. But that is the premise of the movie at the start. Now, spoilers. Anybody, spoilers to you too, but it's in the first 10 minutes of spoilers. Spoilers.
That's
spoilers. He is in love with? I think he's like his a fiance. She gets run down by a vehicle, like this new, machine vehicle. And that's why he invents the time machine, to save her.
Interesting.
And he goes back, and every time he will save her in a different way, and then she dies in a different way. And it's all about this, like the opening of that is how, yes, you may be a time traveler, but death is always there
It's
at the beginning. Yeah. And it's like,
Oh,
I
what a
like
great
that setup.
theme.
It's a great theme in the Guy Pearce one. I love that.
Ooh,
It's a
okay.
great kind of thing. Like, and it gives the time traveler a little bit of, like that backstory that you kind of needed, that distant need. And I like that. The Guy Pearce one, I think, is a very better movie than this. This is the iconic one, but that whole premise to it, and it gets a bit weird at like the end, and as this one does, but like because of, like they're following on. But I like that. I like that you can keep, like, death has got you if you try. Like it, I say, like like Jay, and then he's just said, like, that person I what's it? I don't. Be morbid or whatever. Be morbid.
The Seven
who
Seal
died?
is on this
You know,
list.
yeah,
There's another one you can't get
yeah,
away
yeah.
from. Let's
Yeah,
not go there,
exactly.
but
But you got to, you died in a plane crash. You get them off the plane on the way back. Then
Like
they
Final
die.
Destination, for example,
That
is
is
such a
it. Like,
good
that
example.
kind
You
of
can't
that nuance
escape
of,
death.
like,
It's going to catch you.
Yeah, whatever you do, it's your. I like it how the time traveler realizes in that, and like that is it's when your time, it's your time.
Right.
It's
And
fate. There is fate. There is certain, and I liked it in that one because there is a biblical sense, whereas this movie doesn't really go into a biblical sense. It does heavily in the science fact and the, I suppose, Newton's kind of Einstein's law about the relativity of time and all that, and then this the psychological, theological time relevance of, like, man. But that one is very, sorry, if your ticket's taken,
right. there's no getting off the ride type
that's
of thing.
it. And I like that because it gives it a
I
kind of
agree.
a what you would get in if, like, Christian stories and all like that is like, no,
and in Harry
there
Potter,
is a beyond. Yeah,
the
that's
Deathly
you look at the
Hallows.
Time Winder.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, you even had that too. I was
You have
going
to
to think of the
greet
Time
death
Winder in
as a
Prisoner of
friend,
Azkaban.
right?
Yes.
There's these
When your time is done, salute. That's it. I had a good run.
Had a good run. Wow, did we go off on a tangent here? But it was a good one.
Oh, see, this is why I love movies like this, because they handle the sci-fi aspect and topics so well that it just makes your brain start going in all these directions. It's so fun. I love when time travel does these kind of details and these fixed points and these things that no matter what you do, there's fixed points of reality that no matter what you can't change. It's a style of telling time travel stories that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's why I like when this movie as a whole. I like, my girlfriend said she wasn't impressed with the movie. She was impressed with the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was
Yeah,
like,
I was impressed with both, but I can totally understand the impressive
it
side.
gets your brain going. It goes tick 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 tick. Yeah, and something's not heavy sci-fi. I was like, Then we had literally stopped the movie. Then we had a 30-minute conversation about
it's so easy to
rip it, rip it apart, everything about this. But yeah, anyway, back to the movie.
One thing in this scene. So this was another thing I wanted to. I was mentioning earlier with David Philby's character, which I wanted to come back to when we got to this part. Again, we're seeing he's technically not on screen, although he is, because he's playing James, like the actor, sure. But the character of David Philby, James's father, who's passed away, we find out that, George asks about the estate behind him, the house, his own house he just came from. And James says, my father knew the guy that lived there. He always wanted to keep it in good shape and make sure nothing ever happened, as the whole world has changed around it now at this point. He's like, my father just wanted to keep it the same. For some reason, he always felt that, the owner of it was coming back. He never really said why, which I love, because again,
he does say something, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Like
he says something,
he
and then
refused. Like he refused to let it be sold like something he
right
needs,
to
and
be
like
demolished
he's
or
honored
sold,
it.
or
Yeah,
something along
yeah,
those lines, because he says he's like, my father always believed that the owner would come back,
yeah.
which again goes back to that beginning scene with David. Now I'm getting confused with David, where he's got that curiosity and that understanding, where that curiosity but concern, and at this point he now knows, oh crap, he wasn't kidding. He did travel through time.
Yeah.
That's why he's disappeared. While those other three gentlemen who were there probably just assumed he disappeared, died somewhere. Who knows? We'll never see him again.
Experiment gone wrong.
Philby
Or something,
understands, like, no. You guys never gave him enough credit. He managed to travel through time. He will be back one way or another. So this has to be here when he comes back, because he explained to me already how we're transcending time but not space. So when he does come back, it'll have, like, this house has to be here for, like, say you knock it down or they build a building in its place, everything will be arranged. Who knows what he comes back to? He knows if he comes back, he's coming right back to this house, not just to this time, not in some other area in this time. He's coming to this place, this spot. So it has to be intact as he left it, so that nothing goes wrong on his return back. Again, just, I really like the David Philby character because of what they do with him, even when he's not on screen. They give him a lot of care as a friend too, George.
They do.
I think this is one of the, like, probably the first movies where time is static as well. Like he is in, like, as you say, like yeah, we're going about like gets moved and whatever, but his time is relative to his placement. That, like, you can go, yeah, physics and like the Earth moves and all that, blah blah blah, solar system.
Yeah, and they do such a good job explaining that.
Yeah.
When they're like, he's trying to explain it to those three guys in the beginning, and he's like, look, with this house, because they can't grasp the idea of transcending time but not space. And he's like, well, look, like, this house wasn't always here before. It might have been an ocean. It might have been this, that, the other. It's like, they do a good job at really trying to get that to the audience to help them understand as well. Because, there's probably people in the audience, especially in the 60s, watching this being like, what are you talking about? This doesn't really make a lot of sense, even for sci-fi. And when you break it down into those terms, so those three gentlemen kind of represent the audience member or all of the audience who's questioning, how this would work, but especially the audience members who are like, I don't know, this sounds a little too sci-fi for me. Yeah. It gives them a good way to kind of break it down to them to be like, well, it makes sense. Where we're in, say you're in the 60s, you're watching this in the theater, you can instantly think, well, yeah, I guess this theater wasn't always here. This theater was built 10 years ago. Before that, it was a strip, I guess maybe not strip mall at the time, but just that concept of where you are in time, whatever you're in, whether you're in a house or a building, wherever it is, it wasn't always there. At one point it was an ocean. At one point it was this, that, the other thing. I think was a really clever way to kind of help the audience understand the concept they were going for.
But they did it so in a way that was so quick that you understood it, and you didn't need to overcomplicate it. It didn't need to be like, I'm not renewable. I'm watching something now about the solar system at the moment, and like you could go hours. You can do like, this is like, you could talk hours upon hours upon hours of that kind of that physics, but they do it like 2 minutes. I'm done.
Yep. And just so simple, so logical.
Yeah, we're not going to overcomplicate. And I bet you there was in the script, they were like, how can we dumb it down? But it makes sense, but we don't overcomplicate it to make people go, oh no, you've lost me. But this is, exactly the whole premise of like, this house wasn't always here. This, like, there was rocks, there was seabeds. Like, I think it was cleverly done in a very nice to make it go down to the viewers understand, but we don't need to make it complicated.
No, I agree. It's a lack of the uber scientific explanation for the simple one. You can look back to Event Horizon even for that, when Ware is giving the crew kind of the rundown on what Event Horizon is, and they're just like, all right, could you give it to us in English type of thing? Without that over scientific explanation. Let's just dumb it down. Let's just make it.
Do you speak English?
And let's just do it that way. So it's just an impressively written movie.
Yeah, so back to the thing. So in 1917, he gets peed off, and he fast forwards straight away. He goes back, and he goes into the Second World War, and he slows it down, and he looks up, and they are the mannequin is going at the same time. They have the shot back, but then he's it fixates onto the the blimps. There's a raid, so we got to go. That this is in London, and then he slows down after things. There's a bit more. There's a ruckus in his time machine. Everything's gone a bit boom boom, and then his house is gone. He's now in the 1960s. I think it's 66. So this is from movie standpoint, and this is where me and Sandy probably agree. Is this is 1966 in the movie, 60s and the things. This is for especially the United States. This is the height of the Cold War.
Cold War, absolutely.
This is fear mongering, Hollywood style at its best. This is very projective, nothing to do with the book. This is literally Hollywood, duck and cover, isn't it? That's what it used to be. Like,
absolutely.
So yeah, Sandy.
I was still in grade school when because the Cold War really didn't end until it wasn't just the fall of the Berlin Wall, which was what, 1990. But then you still had yet again the Berlin Wall falls, but then you still have some communist grip and a little bit of a threat. But there were still the grade schools I went to, because they were in downtown Baltimore, big buildings that had a decent basement were all air raid shelters. And that symbol of air raid shelters was on the basement of both grade schools that I went to. And a few blocks from my house was the American Can Company, a huge, there was a lot of industry in Baltimore. There was a rail yard and a shipyard, all within walking distance of my house. And at 1:00 every Monday, the air raid siren went off, even into the 80s. So I'm like a little kid, but still hearing the siren. We didn't have to do duck and cover, but I remember that. I remember not connecting it at all to things like, the Miracle on Ice and the 1980 Olympic, when I was a little kid. I just knew there was a hockey game that was really important. And then of course being in school for the fall of the Berlin Wall and learning about that and understanding that in high school was a big deal. But that siren and that, moving everyone into the air raid shelters, although I never experienced it, I knew exactly what that was, because we still had that symbolism around, and we still had the sirens at 1:00 every Monday. And what that was, I believe, and I could be wrong, my dad, if he ever listened to this, would correct me. My grandfather would walk home from work for lunch some days, and my gram would make lunch, and he knew he had to get back to work when the air raid siren was going off, because it was 1:00 and it was time to get back to work. But the pith helmet, the little jackets that they had, trying to get everyone underground. This obviously was not in the book, again, because the book was written in 1895. This is when I said I think this film was made for the modern audience. I can't do Joker's accent.
It's not. Sorry, can I just think? It's not this modern audience.
No,
of
but
the
back
day.
then,
It's
right?
back when it, because what we got, like it must have hit home, I think, because what we got, Bay of Pigs,
It's
1961.
not Vietnam yet, but
It's not. No, so Bay of
Korea,
Pigs.
right?
Sorry, Bay of Pigs. I'm sure Bay of Pigs, 1961. I'm sure Bay of Pigs. Kennedy, massive mass up. What are the Bay of Pigs? Cuba is years, but 1956. I'm guessing then turned like full communism. Like you got that whole thing is like literally the
It's at a fever pitch. Right?
Yeah, it's like they are off the coast of Florida. They are off the coast of Florida.
Yeah,
61 the cock up,
right?
things like that. So you've got this whole thing from 55, probably 63 in the American time. That is literally the fear mongering. Is literally every media source is telling you, literally everybody bad. What are you gonna do? It's gonna happen. Duck and cover. This is gonna happen. It's not it's was it? It's not that it's going to happen. It's when it's going to be soon. It's literally.
You
So
had
this
that.
is like, I wonder if this movie, because of the things they were clever in introducing that, but I wonder if like in the box office scale, if it did better because it was the ones that kind of gave a premise of this. Please don't, people
Yeah, I
think
feel like it's
about before you do.
early.
Yeah.
Like in our history, this is
Yeah.
really early because
Oh
again, we're not
yes.
in the heat of Vietnam, so that,
No.
that anti-war sentiment did not really follow
Who's
on
before
Korea.
Kennedy? Who before Kennedy?
Truman,
Truman. So
Eisenhower,
yeah.
Kennedy.
So yeah. So you got so 56 onwards the
So
build
you had
up, and then
Roosevelt, Truman,
Truman.
Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah. So Johnson. Yeah. Johnson's now full Vietnam kind of the war era. So we're going into like sorry, I'm going to be really geeky now. French Indochina ended what in 56 kind of thing. So then the Vietnamese 62, the first delegates to America. So you kind of you're really in that ballpark where the China
we're
and
running up
everybody's
to
like
it.
Russia.
We're
It's literally the build
yeah.
up of like you're like okay, I'm gonna take the piss, but not take the piss. If you got because of the movies, like you've got now two world police. You have the Russian world police and America world police. If you go by that, like you have now two conflicts of um capitalism, democracy against communism.
You
That is
do.
it. That is
And in
it. That
America,
is boom.
what you have is while our grandfathers fought the war in Europe against communism, right? The I think how it hit the home front during the Cold War, in addition to the threat and the Cuban Missile Crisis, the two things. Number one, the progression of technology, where the advancement of military technology and the capabilities of war were just going off the scale, right? We had nuclear technology, nuclear energy, and radar and intercontinental ballistic missiles, and the film War Games is going to talk about it too, right? So we've got all that. But the second thing we have that influences that fear a little bit is the immigration to the United States of Russians, Poles, the Baltics, all of the Ukrainians, um, all of those getting out of the Soviet Union. My ancestors as well, coming from Poland, some of them, and Russia, some of them. So you've got a growing, swelling population here who are very committed to their homeland and to, yeah, well, you guys liberated, quote, us during World War II, and Russia always stumbles into Poland first, um, but we're still under threat, and this Iron Curtain thing is really freaky. And the Russians, the war was over 15, 20 years ago. Why are the Russians still there again? And that sentiment here, and yeah, I'm sorry, I could go into like 2 hours on this topic, but that sentiment here plus, um, then in the 80s, you're going to have the convergence of leadership coming out of those countries, both on both sides of the Iron Curtain, that needs to figure out a way out. You've got an opportunistic, charismatic shipyard union leader in Poland named Lech Wałęsa. You've got a pope coming out of Poland in JP2, John Paul II. And you've got aspiring Russian leaders who don't want to do this anymore in Gorbachev. All those things are going to come together soon, but you've got to get to that fever pitch of fear first. And I'm sorry, I've gone down a tangent, but it's such an interesting period of history because I was right on the cusp of it. I was really, really young. But I also, there's a fantastic documentary. It's not Ken Burns. Oh, it might be Ken Burns. Oh, heavens. I'm sorry if I'm saying it's Ken Burns, but The Cold War might be Ken Burns, is a wonderful documentary. And it goes through all that. So anyway, so yes, the anti-war sentiment that is in this film, to get back to where we were, is not in the book. I felt like it took away from the film just a bit, especially the air raid scenes, and then throwing Philby into the air raid captain, the block captain uh, situation there. Because again, I feel like the book had more of the story of him with his thoughts, him with his
Yes.
fears, him being alone. Um, when he first arrives, it's not on the planet, he's on our planet. When he first arrives forward in time in the year 802, 721, something to that effect, um, he's trying to explore and figure things out, but there's also this fear. And the scene where he finds the Eloy, chilling out and enjoying themselves, I don't think the Weena scene happens that quickly. And
No.
then when Weena is part of the story in the book, she's not. She's with him. He comments on the fact that she's with him and won't leave him, but she's not prominent in the story. He's still doing his thing. And you're hearing from the mind of the time traveler. So I'm sorry, I've gone on quite a bit there, but just, the film on its own merits at this point. Good, different story. I feel like it does lose a little bit of what was in the book.
Well, yeah, because now they go into the kind of the next future of, again, they see, I suppose, an older David, older James, or whatever.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
now
older
this is where, again, what we literally just me and Jay will say, you just nailed it. This is Cold War, because now they introduce East versus West. There's no definition. This is East versus. This is Cold War. You're not like this is 60s, but an older, as we are, growing audience. This is Cold War. They are
And this
probably just telling you straight away, East West.
and the kind of interesting thing about this now, kind of hearing a little bit more about that side of the Cold War and the influence on it, which I knew of, but just didn't totally put two and two
Before you were
together.
born, we know, Jay.
Right. Well, more so that I kind of just didn't put two and two together in the terms of this messaging towards the audience. Just because I just didn't. And now I'm looking at it and realizing, like, oh, so he stops in 1966 for this scene too. So this is probably a little bit of them saying, because this movie is 1960, it's probably even more of that, like, this is what could come or what might come type of messaging, 6 years from now type of thing. 'Cause they kind of set in the stage to say, be wary. This is this part of this sci-fi movie is potentially right around the corner a few years from now type of thing. So
When
probably
they say,
just
don't they,
drives
like,
that messaging home a little more.
Yeah, I think James. I call him James. I can't remember like that. He says like the mushrooms. There could be a mushroom.
Yes, they'll be sprouting any minute or any second.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is like, again, it's like I'm just like going to rant on from probably what Sandy said. This is where, literally, this is where I remember sitting down and watching the Berlin Wall full TV. It's like one of them moments in history that you've got to watch this. Like, yeah, Jay,
I'm so glad I did. I'm so
and you're
glad I
like,
did.
that was like, and yeah, but
Wow.
when you're young, you like, I understand it and I don't understand it. But that this is a point in history. This is 1960s. So what you've got to, like, as a today's audience, you've got to realize how great and how unbiased the internet is. And I mean that is like, and like, in a way, is you can study and know your facts. Before that, you have your local library, you have your local television station, you have your newspapers. That is it. If they didn't stop the information that was, oh, I want to learn, you had a very narrow view. You had what they wanted to teach you. And this is very prevalent today. And what's building up is you can fact check. You can go in, you can decipher what you believe is right and believe is wrong. If you go whichever way, that is down to you. But this era, this is the story. This is what are we're telling you this direction. There's no other information because they're not feeding it to you. So this is a game where Hollywood right or wrongly, and probably now you would say wrongly, they gave a direction to this movie to be prevalent to the time of 1960s, because they wanted to get not people afraid of what's going to happen. It's just going follow the line, follow to what we're telling you as well. So I kind of, you can see the how times have changed. Times have changed. This movie, as it was that dialect of like scaremongering would not be in a movie, especially as it's so far away from the novel.
And so one thing that's kind of interesting for me, for somebody who, didn't, by the 90s, I was born in the 90s, obviously, so kind of all this Cold War stuff was wrapping up. It doesn't, like, when you watch this movie, it doesn't feel that way for somebody, I guess, at least from my, generation. I can't speak for everybody in my generation, of course, but I never felt like this was fear mongering. So even though it might, probably was at that time and likely was, it still holds up just in concept alone, given that in my own lifetime, I've never lived in a time where there wasn't a war going on somewhere. So it's still, unfortunately, a relatable kind of topic or idea that, wars would be going on, all this stuff. But I gotta say,
what's great about this movie.
It just kind of like applies now. And again, obviously there was a message being specifically told. That's the word, exactly.
The theme.
It's a timeless, unfortunately, a timeless theme. Because wouldn't it be nice if there wasn't wars going on? But because it's still so applicable to today, I never even felt, I kind of never picked up on that hard messaging of that time. To be honest, it never even crossed my mind. It just felt like a pretty plausible concept. So it's interesting to see how it might have been done for that messaging reason, but it still holds up today for other reasons, type of thing. It's kind of fascinating.
So now the bombs are going off in the movie, and he zooms forward, of course.
Before we skip ahead, Stacey, one quick thing that, again, I did love, because I guess my favorite character of this movie was David Philby. I'm realizing that now. Again, we get another little bit of that relationship and the care that not only David had, but he then expressed enough to his son that his son held on to it, because I was going to say Roger. George walks over into the park where his, where his house would have been. And he sees that not only is the sundial that was at his estate still there,
there's a little plaque in it.
The little plaque that
memorial.
reads, "This plaque is dedicated by James Philby to his father's devotion for his friend George." So again, we're just seeing this friendship that I think the message they're going for also transcends time, which I thought was a nice little heartfelt message to put in there.
Yeah.
I like.
Sorry, now we can go. Now we can go ahead. I just love that David Philby character. I love how they did so much with him with so.
And that's it, because it's just that subtle. It's like, I suppose it's like, I suppose in George's mind, it's like, that's my funeral. That is, that's my
right. This is
my gravestone, kind of feel like that. But he's just like understanding, the friendship. He actually had, like he might have gone into the future,
but he can still feel that friendship.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful little message in there.
Yeah. So the next one, so he gets pushed in. Of course, I like this because it's, again, what you notice, Jay, is about this was never always a house, and he gets covered into mountains. Like he goes not thousands, he goes generations, like way, like tens of thousands, now years into the future. To the point, he's waiting for the stone to go. Sandy, what is the year? What was it you say? What
802-721? I meant
yeah, exactly.
But it's 800, and it's the 802,000s that we're in.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
at this point, give or take a year, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. So he gets on. He kind of gets thrown out of his, I suppose, chair. What even a time device?
Yeah,
so he's like that. So he gets kind of pushed out. He then, this is the I like this bit. It's a very like he's in a new world.
Mm-hmm.
This is something this is what he wanted. This is where he believes humanity has got to that point where they're beyond anything else, that the I suppose, like, they're about science, they're about ambition, they're about that. So he goes to discover, and he gets a pot, like, goes to, like, the door, dun dun dun, like this great structure, and he can't get in. So he goes and has a little, I suppose, a little wander, and he soon realizes, in a way, that he's alone. And I like this, and I like this. The book does it so well,
I
and
think so.
I don't think in this movie, I think they skipped it a little bit too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Is because when he's even, like, he goes to that dome, you know, and all the plates are there and everything's there, and the aloneness, there's not many people there. But when he's going through the forests and all that, like, and there's, like, the different flowers, that, there's different evolutions of the environment that they would see, as he's now so thousands of years. It just skips it a little bit for me. This should have been drawn out, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
seclusion. I would love that a bit more. But,
And a lot of thinking. So this is where he's
yeah.
secluded, he's alone, he's not sure what to do. So in the book, his brain goes back to those, good old survival techniques, right? I have to find a weapon. I have to find, eventually food. I have to figure out where I am. And he goes on a little look around. It's much more descriptive in the book. Again, for being a book and for being a short book, this time is used much more efficiently in the story, and so descriptive the way you would expect an explorer to describe what he's seeing. You kind of think of, like, Darwin, writing the, origin of the species, or like Audubon and his Birds of North America, those people who wrote about what they saw and described creatures and plants and trees. That's what he was doing in the book.
Mhm.
The film didn't really go into that. So Jay didn't read the book. So how did you feel about this point in time where he's quote landed? I keep in my brain, I want to say in a different place, but it's a different time. So he's arrived at this time. What did you think about where the story was going at this point?
So for me, this was where I felt like the story was branching a bit more away from the war stuff and into the really sci-fi stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
As we obviously he will from here, he'll bump into Weena and the people and all that, and the Eloy, is it Eloy? Am I saying that
The
right?
Eloy.
The Eloy and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked a lot of what goes on here, but I get a little aggravated with the Eloy.
Yeah.
The just lack of responding and stuff to anything was just like driving me mad for some reason or another. Like, and it just quite like they just didn't talk and wouldn't respond as he's clearly. I don't know. Part of the way they did that just was like annoying to me.
Yeah.
But isn't that the point as well? That is the point.
Yeah, and I get that that's what they were going for, but it almost was just like done a little too much, like a little bit of.
They made them out like
simpletons.
simpletons. They can't. Yeah.
Because they're obviously meant to be simpletons, and I don't mean to say that in a bad way, but like they're obviously meant to be very
lazy.
simple people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like exactly. They all they do is frolic in the river and eat food. Like they don't have it, so they're simple people, simple-minded, which is what they're going for. But like, I don't know. I guess you could have just gave me some more just simple answers coming out of him versus like him talking and them just acting like they're not hearing anything. It just came off as a little odd. And I think one other thing I'll point from this is obviously this is where we start to meet Weena. And it sounds like they might have sacrificed some of the better storytelling that happens in the book for a kind of classic Hollywood, romance and love kind of portion of the movie with, a blonde actress and all that, where knowing what happens in the book, I probably would have preferred to see more. Well, not knowing, hearing now from you guys what happens in the book, I probably would have rather preferred that they dove more into that than kind of creating this relationship with Weena. But That's something we'll probably talk a little bit more of when we get in here.
Yeah, this is where it gets into that
Classic,
I
like
feel
Hollywood
that
stuff.
exactly that Hollywood vibe,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's that Hollywood 60s,
Yeah.
vibe. There's more sexuality on screen. That they got the hairdos and the shorty short dresses. It's very 60s
Mm-hmm.
clothing, which surprised me because if you're going for sci-fi, you maybe should have gone for something maybe a little more dramatically different in the way that they look, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the story is going to evolve that, the quote, the Eloi in being more evolved have actually devolved
Right.
because they've lost all of their abilities to understand survival skills. And so I just expected it to have a different look and feel to it. Now contrast that with something like, and I guess it's made later, I guess it was the 70s, but like Logan's Run, where that is far in the future as well. And I felt like, at least from the costumes and the mannerisms, yeah, you could tell they were human, yeah, or humanoid. I don't know, I just felt like it was going for a totally different look. And here, for such a dramatic story, I didn't like the look and I didn't like that 60s vibe about it. I can't
They've
explain it
gone for
anymore.
the probably San Francisco hippie.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what this is. This is everybody's long hair. They kind of got that that kind of Californian, that kind of era, that blonde
Everybody's
lock.
blonde.
Yeah, that blonde, that surfer look. It's kind of that
Right.
surfer look.
Yeah,
The
you're
guy,
right.
everybody's got longer hair like that. There's no stubble. There's no beard though. It's like, well, hold it. So you can clean shave, but you're still like long
Right.
hair. It's like it's a bit odd. It is a bit of a mismatch of what you would perceive of like a not cultured, but a kind of a forefront of what they would know. Like
No, I think
society.
you're right.
So yeah. So yeah, it's again they played on it as connecting this conservative audience with what's going on in the world, and then the rebellion youth.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that. Yeah. What's kind of it's this bit of the movie. Yeah, they could have done so much better, but they did it well. I suppose with the constraints as well, they pulled the production people and probably the studios pulled onto them at the time.
Right. Which, fair enough. These movies are every movie is going to be a little bit of a product of its time and studio interference.
But yeah, so we got this next one with the Eon. Is it? What's it called now?
Eloy?
Eloy.
Okay.
Eloy.
Every time I say it, I feel like I'm saying it
Yeah,
wrong.
I was saying it wrong. Yeah. So the Eloy,
Hang
they
on,
go
hang on.
into
I'm going to put it in chat.
Perfect.
There you
Eloy.
go.
Eloy. So the
perfect.
Eloy are now eating at the place where he first went, where it was empty. This little place where all the everything was a setting, everything was nice. He's trying to
It's the party patio.
Yeah, he's now trying to understand them. He's like, come on, guys, who are you? And they're just literally blank.
Right. Before we get there, he first finds them over by the river, that's where he saves Weena. And he's disgusted by the fact that none of them are even trying to save her, that they're just watching her essentially drown at this point and not doing anything, which goes on to a little bit of what he starts to realize about them in terms of they're kind of like I don't want to say docile, but like they don't they're not thinking on their own for the most part. They're just kind of like, it's like I said, frolicking in the river and then eating food. Like there's not much going on behind the eyes for these people. Not even enough to try to save somebody's life, which I believe he even references either here or in a little bit where he kind of is talking with Weena. It might be at the campfire scene with Weena, where he's kind of talking about how that's something that's been taken from, these people. And all it takes is somebody to spark it back in them again so that they can achieve what they're able to.
I did put it on Twitter and I'll say again, a million years. Was it a million years? Oh, somebody just tweeted it. Just broke up there. A million years of sensitive men dying for their dreams. For what? So you can swim and
Yes.
dance
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
play. And he
Yeah.
gets annoyed if like they wouldn't
I love
lend a
that.
hand. It's like, come
Mhm.
on, guys! Like it was easy, you know.
Even and it's like even more so. It's that well, at that point he's frustrated that they won't lend a hand. But then when he gets to the point of that the back in the dinner scene where they're all eating, um, he's almost just so frustrated that it appears that I think he's now realizing that like not only are you guys all these men, all this history of men, women, whoever who have died, to get to where we are now or where he's traveled to now, and you guys are basically wasting it, like he says, frolicking and being lazy. It's almost like he's frustrated because he borderline understands that they are simple people and they don't
They are
like
simple.
yeah, they don't even know what they could do or be capable of, which
Mm.
frustrates him, I feel like, even more.
Well, that's it. Like I think there's a bit about the fruit because the fruit is oversized and like how,
Mhm.
and he's all about how do you culture it? How do you do that? And they're like,
It's
it's
just
Ooh.
just
here.
yeah, it's just yeah, and they just don't have that premise of like we want to be, we want to better ourselves. This is our existence.
Mhm. They're
This is who
essentially
we
it's
are.
like they're pets. It's like they're
Mm.
pets of somebody he
Yeah,
doesn't know who they're pets of just yet.
yeah.
Obviously, we'll
Uh-huh.
find that out. But yeah, it's like they're pets. Like you feed your dog.
Mm.
Like your dog doesn't cultivate his food. Neither does your cats. They just wait for you to put it in the bowl for them, and they sit around all day sleeping in the sun and getting pets and all that stuff. So it's very similar. He's like, you guys are essentially acting like you're somebody's pet animals. Where's the motivation? Where's the drive? Where's the want to be more? And
Well, that's
for
it.
somebody like him, that's obviously incredibly frustrating to see.
But that's it. Like the next bit is like books. We have books, and then he takes them to their kind of one book kind of
Yeah.
area, and it breaks up. And like as
Oh, they just
everybody know,
disintegrate. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
but everybody know if you have a book of the olden, things like that. Like I suppose like the what's a good one? Arabian Nights. It's that is from manuscripts, and it's been rewritten, republished, redone.
Mhm.
10th, 20th, blah blah blah. To save these books, even if you go by the Bible manuscripts, blah blah blah. Yeah, whatever you want to go, whatever biblical old like things, they have been rewritten. And this,
cared
but
for,
yeah,
preserved.
cared for,
Yep.
yeah, preserved. And this, they don't. He grabs the
Nope,
book, opens it up, and
not important.
it disintegrates, and they don't care about it. They've never thought about what's in it. It's a closed book. He opens it up, and it turns into dust, and he sweeps it all away, and they all just go into thing. And he gets annoyed. He
They're
gets
just
to
like,
the point of,
whatever.
yeah, it's like what this is just a thing. This isn't knowledge. There's no knowledge that needs to be from this. So everything that should have been preserved has been lost. Anything that should have been gained, any new knowledge, there is none.
Mhm.
It's just what's been passed down. And it's like that older the Nordic ones, pass it down by song.
Right.
Don't write it down. And it's just
Right.
like, it's gonna get lost. It's gonna get lost.
Mhm.
So that is
It's a
where, yeah.
he's traveled essentially to a
Mm.
time of, instead of preservation of
Yeah.
knowledge, it's a decaying of knowledge. And
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
somebody like him, that's got to be maddening to see.
Mm. I always like sorry, this theory. I'm going to go outside the movie a little bit of this the of knowledge in books, and it was like one. I can't remember who said it once like that. Is it if the world ended, that everybody who was under the age of 5 could read, yeah, but they all lived. Everybody under the age of 5 lived. Everybody else died. Yeah, but the only book in existence they found was the Lord of the Rings. What would they believe the past was?
Mm.
And that is the great thing about knowledge within books, because if you only have that one, that is what people will believe. So that's why
Mhm.
the novelization, the written word, the actual pen on paper needs to be preserved. And I think Sandy does that quite a lot.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's that's such an important
Mm.
part of the story and his anger in that moment. Like I love that. I loved
Mm.
and again, that did happen in the book, But to see that on screen, I really appreciated his anger at the books just completely disintegrating in his hands. And the more he grasped them, they just poofed into dust. And that was great. That was great because that's kind of like, okay, now you've lost everything. You've lost your personal ability to survive. Basically, you have no skills. You can't communicate. You're terrible communicators. And you've lost your historical knowledge too. You're effed. Like
Right.
humanity is effed. And as a time traveler, that's your worst nightmare. That's your worst reality is to find out that it's all going away. We know it's all going away when the sun explodes someday, or I'm sorry, I'm not scientific in that way. Whether it's explode or implode, I'm sorry, I don't know which one. When the sun goes away, um,
When the sun goes boom, basically.
yeah, when there's no more sun, if we haven't made our way to another planet, then we know that that is inevitable. But this is an inevitability that he's experiencing that is purely by the laziness of humankind. And when you think back to the beginning of the story, whether book or film, they begin the story in that, and I'm sorry, I love like the old Victorian idea of the salon where the intellectually snobby elite get together and discuss the problems of the day and talk about science. And it is why I think we confuse this with Jules Verne so often, because they both use the the Victorian salon as the vehicle to do a lot of narration and a lot of what do we call it, stage setting for the story. It's just something that I've always enjoyed. And when you think about what they're discussing about invention, about man's capabilities, the industrial revolution is here upon us, and then the time traveler who has conquered the science in order to travel finds that everyone else, they're just idiots. They've, it's kind of like, okay, now I'm going to bring up the Planet of the Apes. What have you done? You blew it all up. You destroyed this. When he, sorry for spoilers, when he realizes where he is and when he is, and the fact that man has done this to the planet, that's got to be incredibly frustrating, to the time traveler. But yet he still has some exploring to, in the book. He still has some exploring to do, and the exploring piece is handled very well. Here, we're not doing any more exploring now. He and Weena are operating like a, I don't know, a 12 meter by 12 meter area around that statue, which is described in the book. You showed the cover of the book. It's described in the book as a sphinx, not a I don't know what it is, I guess it's a monument to the Morlocks. But yeah, it's described differently in the book, and I guess, probably unfairly to compare it to what we know as a sphinx, but captured on the book that you have. They don't really move away from that general area, and in the book, he's looking around, he's checking out the place, he's, finding, trying to find a weapon of some sort, and he's experiencing things. His brain is starting to figure out that the Eloi are not alone. There may be other creatures here, and the reason why the Eloi, and this is much more serious in the book, when it gets dark at night, the reason why the Eloi go into their sleeping houses at night. I think, am I correct in the book? They have lost the ability to make fire, right? Because
Yes.
they're all so enthralled at his book of matches. And I can't remember now in the film, but in the book, they've forgotten how to make fire. So that's how they can't keep the Morlocks at bay, and the Morlocks are afraid of fire. So I understand the story that the film is trying to tell, and I think it does a good job with the story it's trying to tell at this point. I wish there had been a little more exploring, because a time traveler story should have a little more exploring here.
That's why, like, I'm gonna say again, like, I do adore this movie. Watch the Guy Pearce one, because they
That's
make
awesome to
they
hear. I've not seen it, so that's
they
great to hear.
do it so well of how they hide. They know
Oh,
this is a
nice.
threat, and they know they don't have fire, and they have they do it as a very clever way that the Morlocks can't get them when they're sleeping. And I won't give it away because it's quite clever in the movie. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, very, I'll give you that. Whoever thought of that? Very,
Oh,
very
cool.
clever way. It's like, yeah, so yeah, but this, yeah, of course, they don't really perceive that kind of threat. I suppose is the like it's how we stumble across them is very subtle, I suppose, like that. He goes banging on the door because he's pissed off. Really, if the greatest things. He then starts a fire with Wheeler, Wiener. She goes to touch the fire, and that's where we understand they don't
They
understand
don't
fire,
know
not
what
just her.
fire is.
They don't know because she goes to put her hand in the fire. They have no premise of like um, keeping yourself warm, like that moment. And then he kind of, I suppose, there's a glimpse when he does the first spark of a match. The Morlocks are out. They're out. They're a night creature, like that. They're whatever. And then he then I don't know if we skipped it, but he's time machine. What he wants to get away now. He thinks this. I need to go further into the future. Like I'm.
Yeah, time to
What a
get
what
there. Yep.
what a waste of time these people are. And then he goes there and he's the I suppose the struts of like his time machine's been pulled into the door. He couldn't get in into the first place. So now he's I need to get away from these people, but now he's starting to get a bit of a relationship with Weena. You know, not just um she's a pretty lady. Let's say that. He's as in throughout time, men have been drawn a certain way. Maybe they do things wrong, and maybe they
Tale as
do
old
things
as time.
right. Yes.
Mhm.
So he's he he. he he's got a little thing for Wiener, let's say that, in his Wiener. Like that. Sorry, easy. No. But then
Low
they
hanging
like,
fruit. What are you gonna do?
yeah, gotta do it. And then they come across a what are you gonna call them? An alien set kind of structures, but not alien. They've been built into the
The kind of
as
wells, those
yeah,
little
like where yeah, what I don't
they're
know what
like
you call them, like
wells, I think.
yeah, like caverns into the things, and like he like I need to go down one, but then she now introduces like him to the rings. How do you know about this? Because of the rings. And it's slightly different like in like the book, but these rings tell a story. So you spin them on this plate and they give her like an audience, like they give a little display of what a little bit of history. They only like a snippet of like times gone past, and then you learn about some really, really subtle bits of history. But this is
Mhm.
the rings. The rings will that's how they learn learned their knowledge. And it's quite good that he understands what it means, and he gets a bit disheartened by what he's hearing. He understands because of his history and the knowledge that he's brought up is where the world's gone.
Mhm.
But she's oblivious.
She
Like
is
she's listening.
oblivious. She's
Yeah,
clueless.
yeah. So she's like, yeah, like that. They could be saying anything. They're just words to her. They're not things. You can see he's disillusioned of like his hope of society growing, and he's like the snippets he's getting from these rings. They don't go much into it, but the bits they do, like everything that part of history that he's moved on from, that he thought they might have learned a little bit. He's like, they just carried on. They just carried on doing the same old dumb things over and over
Lazy,
again.
laziness, complacency, and the idea in the book, at this point, he's more primal at this point, right? He's trying to survive. He's trying to think about, you're hearing him talk about conserving his matches and looking for a club of some sort because his time machine's been, wheeled. He doesn't know in the book where the time machine was wheeled. He's assuming it's into the Sphinx, but he's not exactly sure. He's also initially not sure who took it, but then, pretty quickly figures out it's the Morlocks, the bad guys that would have just been able to drag it a short distance and into the Sphinx. So he's trying to get in there. He's finding different things to bang on the doors, and he's talking in the book about, and I feel like you get a better representation of the passage of time, like how many days he's there because of him counting his matches and saving his matches. Not a lot of Weena in this part of the book. She's there, and they mention her clinging on to him, not speaking. She didn't speak. In the book, it made it seem like they spoke a different language, which obviously wouldn't work so well in the film, but that he was somehow able to understand them, probably through gestures and things like that. But she wasn't speaking, but she was kind of clinging to him. And the book portrayed her as very childlike, like even more so than the film, that she's you use the word a simpleton, a childlike simpleton. But the focus of the story was squarely on him trying to survive now and figuring out how to get his time machine back.
Yeah. So, yeah, I suppose like this is the part where we get to see the Morlocks, I suppose. Like, so, like, I don't know if I do or dislike. I get the reference with the siren. So, like, I brought up like earlier the picture of the things, them marks, what we see on the either column of the head. They're kind of they rise up at the point, and they kind of it's an aero siren. Let's say it is supposed to be symbolic, I guess, into the movie what it is, and everybody kind of I suppose it's supposed to be hypnotic, isn't it? Supposed to be like, or it's like a mind control.
So. Mind control. Yep.
It's like they get drawn. Yeah, they get drawn to it. So everybody starts to feed to this things, and he starts to get kind of like, what is everybody doing? And kind of get annoyed, doesn't he? And of course, they go through the doors he can't go through, and they just close. Boom. And there's certain amount of people behind the doors, and he like this is where like we call them simpletons, but like he gets so frustrated about the people who didn't get in there. It's just like, yeah, but this is the way. Like, kind of, this is what we do. Like, what are you talking about? This is normal for us, and he can't get his head around that. You don't know what is happening to these group of people. Like
and they're not coming back.
Yeah, they're not coming back. But what? Come on, any feedback here? And they're just like, why are we talking to you? Like they just want to go back
about our business. Let's go back to our business.
And that's it. Like, and it's like he's even getting angrier and angrier, and the group of them it starts to like filter out. And he's just like that. Nobody cares. Like you're saying stuff, but they don't care. They don't care. Like you're saying, like we should, like rescue these people. What is rescue? What is that?
They don't even understand why.
No. So yeah, and then of course, then he goes down one of the funnels or whatever you call it, the chutes, to kind of what he said, like what we seen him try and do earlier. This is where he
Now,
believes is.
in the film, I can't remember. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. So in the book, this is where he sees the feast that is laid for the Morlocks, and there's this strange meat. Was that in the film?
No,
Okay,
no.
okay. I'm trying to think because it was it's such an important plot point.
He only
Oh,
says that they are
okay,
cannibals. Yeah.
because maybe in the book, I don't know. Maybe it's has to be more direct, but you know what it is in the
Yeah.
book. Like as soon as he mentions meat on a plate, we're like, oh, we know where this is going.
Yeah. But I like that. So he gets down. He gets into this like. I suppose it is supposed to give that industrial feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be like that, and industrial gone wrong. This is why they're bad. And I think like they kind of emphasize like there are two. One went to when the nuclear bombs they went underground, and this is what they turned into. And but the bit I don't like about this movie is like this really annoys me. Is like he gets his stick or whatever. He wraps it in the hay or what he's found some of it,
Yeah.
and he doesn't light it. Like I've got
No.
it ready. Why? You don't know why, but he
No.
doesn't know why. He just thought that'd be a good idea. Like, so it's a bit annoying that bit, but then of course we get this is I suppose like steam industrial factory underground. We don't know what the workings are. We just know it's there. It's a bit
just kind of like ambiguous machinery, there's like steam. You got to imagine some of it's powering their Sphinx lair thing. It's kind of just, like you said, industrial sort of cave area.
Yeah. So you get the group that he's kind of come across the group, and then you get, I suppose at his time, it's a very good practical. It's the Morlocks. Like that, they are
It
human.
became kind of iconic, right?
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of like comedy sketches that use this, and I mean, even of course, again, I don't like the Big Bang Theory, but when they did the Time Machine episode, these guys were running around, and so this kind of visage comes up in a lot of different shows. I think for its time, it's probably, I give it its due. I give it its due.
And nowadays, how much it resembles Abe is quite unique.
I know the green. It's
the green. But yeah, it's like I get like it was kind of like if you look at it, I can understand why it's scary. These like these beings, this is what humanity could become.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it's trying to say. Like, and they're like yeah, he does it, but I don't know how he realizes, like probably from an early sequences, like he does these little match things, but this is where he does the matches, and even to the screen, like every time he lights it, you get that flash of light, and then the Morlocks kind of go away. So he understands this is they're like, I don't think they're afraid of fire. I just think they're afraid of the light. I always got they are.
Yes.
This is like they're not used to light,
especially with the whole like they come out at night type of thing. That's kind of how I understood it.
Yeah, they're so like it's not. They're not.
It's the big like blast of light that gets them to back off. It's not so much any heat that they're feeling from the match.
Yeah, so he manages to. I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna call the next scene. It gets a bit silly. Let's say that it gets a bit. He becomes
where it was like, okay, this feels like some 1960s TV or movie of like the fight choreography, the swinging around of the pipes for some,
God,
double
it was like a Batman episode to me.
Like,
yeah,
exactly, Sandy. Yep,
thwack.
Really had that.
Pow.
Yep. And this is where I felt like the set was the most obvious. You didn't feel like you were on a set as much in other parts of the movie. This was where it felt like almost like something out of original Star Trek or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I can say that. Yeah.
But I mean, it still worked. It's not a huge complaint or anything. It's just like, okay, we got a little cheesy here in the fight choreography. a little, a little bit more obvious on the set design, but it's not like it,
Well, we'll
ruined
talk
the movie
about the
for me.
budget in a minute.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
talk about the economics of this film.
What's it? I think where it's got Journey to the Center of the Earth, where this is supposed to be like this is supposed like, and they're constantly there, and it felt really low budget. It feels like, oh, you're on a stage set, and they just
thought of
change
exactly that.
But this bit feels like that, but because it's such like it's not a long part of the movie, they kind of get into it and get out of it quite quick. It's like, oh, it doesn't interrupt. It doesn't make your mindset go. Yeah.
The entirety of it isn't there like it is some, Journey to Center of the Earth or things like Star Trek episodes, that would come later on. It was a perfect. That's actually a perfect example of what I meant earlier when, it seems like you see a lot of times in movie and television, the technologies that movies have ends up finally getting passed down to the TV budgets years later. So this would have been a perfect example of kind of where they were budget wise with sets and all that. Then feeling like Star Trek, which would be what, 1966, something like almost 7 years later, whenever Star Trek started, where it feels like this is what the high tech was at the movies at the time. And as the movies progressed into different technologies, this was kind of the hand-me-down passed on to sci-fi television that they would then use. So when I was watching it, it felt a lot like flicking through the channels back in the day between looking for cartoon channels.
Oh my gosh,
where you'd see an old episode of Star Trek. So it rung a little nostalgia bell with me for that reason.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
So in the movie, he's now saved the day. He's rescued the indigenous people, I suppose, from the Morlocks. And he's now got them to throw sticks down the holes that we got to get. I don't know how this
not
would
in the
blow.
book, yeah.
Yeah, not a bit. No, but I don't get how this would blow up this whole kind of thing. But again, it's like this bit is obviously like a miniature set, and it like they explode it to just say the baddies are gone. The baddies are gone. Kind of like I suppose moment in the movie. And it's
and even for miniature set stuff, I thought it looked pretty good. I can see people in the 60s totally buying that. Obviously now we've seen not only, the kind of behind the scenes on these miniature sets and how they're done and how they're used. And we've seen some like really great things done in terms of, miniatures and how they've been used nowadays, plus forced perspective, all these, different types of things that they've done that makes it look even better. But I thought it looked pretty, this in the lava scene from way earlier in the movie, I thought were done pretty well in terms of miniature sets that at the time audience could have totally bought into. Yeah,
I agree. And well, I'm going to be quiet. We'll talk about some effects in a bit. I won't say anything right now. Hold on.
Yeah. So you get now, he has now been drawn back into the doors open. He has found his time machine. He fights off a couple of Morlocks. The door closes. He's lost now. Weena, after he says, come with me. He wants her back in wherever, future, past, present, wherever. And he gets thrown down. He goes then pushes accidentally into the future. We see a very, I suppose, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade moment, like with the skeleton going out. He chose unwisely moment, and then he pulls the time machine back into his time, let's say that. And then you kind of now he's now back. We're back to the future
in time. Sorry, yeah, I'm gonna do my Lewis now.
Yeah. So now he drags the time machine back into his time. So like that. So he has to smash in things because now he's now back at the start of the movie when they get introduced to him and why they're there for the dinner or smoking thing like that. And he's back turned up in his from telling the story of what it was at the start of the movie to what it is, what we've just seen. So it is now what we saw at the start. Yeah, and I like this because it just connects everything. Again, you've got everybody going things, and then you got oh my god, David or James. He gives him a flower, doesn't he? This is probably
because
why
they're all like not believing him, and he's like, I figured you would have
he's a
believed me
botanist.
anyways. Then
Yeah, it's like
but they said this flower I've never seen before.
Yeah, and he's like, you're an amateur botanist. What do you think of this? And I think that's what gears up for what you just saw of like he kind of believes him. There's something not right, and it's because of this little flower that he has on him. So
because Weena, I'm sorry, Weena stuck it in his pocket. I don't know why that sounds so horrible. Why does it sound bad? It's
sorry.
It doesn't make any sense. But she would anyway. That makes no sense, but it sounds awful. But yeah, because she stuck it in his pocket. He brought back the proof. He had the proof all along, right there with him.
And again, only Philby's willing to believe him.
Yeah,
of that group of gentlemen.
Well, I say it so like even to the point where he again I like this because again it's a time variance, I suppose you're gonna call it. So of course they go out to the snow. He goes like kind of mate like one of things, but then he goes back to the house. Like he says goodbye to everyone. Like he drags the time machine back into the away, as they say, away from the Morlocks. It would be outside their complex, so he knows where he's going to land. I suppose in time because of what the previous says, and then of course he goes in there and movie magic. He's gone, and then he has a things like kind of remnant. Oh, he knew where to go. He knew that this would save her, and he's also. But you don't really hear the story like directly the story of Weena to David, but this is what you have seen, and this is the story that he has been telling David. So that's it. So it's like that. It is quite good, and then I suppose it's very iconic. This next very subtle scene.
And I think I want to hear you say, because I think it's what you're thinking, and I loved the way that this played out. So feel free.
What 3 books would you have taken?
Yes, I loved that. I thought it was brilliant because there is no surefire answer, and it's such a good way to leave the audience talking on the way out
and
the
it
door.
became a parlor game. So that was one of
is
those
that where that comes from?
Victorian parlor games where
3
you would
books on a
talk
desert
about
island.
what 3 men you would, what 3 figures from history would you like to go to dinner with? What 3 books would you take with you?
Interesting.
Those were those intelligent conversations, by the way, that we aspire to have here on Film Club. Those intelligent.
What 3 films would you bring to Weena back in time?
Exactly.
That is what I love about this concept of this movie. Like I like my girlfriend was right. She maybe she didn't like the movie, but she loved the theme. And I think this ending and like when you think on it, it's like
so simple, but
if you knew the future was worse than it was, then you left it, and you could make it better by bringing what back?
Books. Yay, books.
What? Yeah, but it's not even that. But so maybe books or what? What would it be?
Yeah.
And that literally your brain goes, and I love that. I love that moment because you go, oh, is it that? Oh, what about if it's that? What about if they, and it makes your brain go, you need now to think. I love that bit. I love it.
I can only imagine the audiences walking out of that, having discussions with you. Because I mean, we've all been to movie theaters. You walk out, I like this about it, I like that about it. Talking all these things with your buddies that you go with or your family, whoever. So that would have been such a good. I can only imagine the buzz walking out of theaters of people having those discussions.
Yeah, but that's it. Like if you like literacy was dead, I suppose, as it is in this movie. What would you bring back? What like that is so. If you only 3, name your 3. Literally, you were like, well, is it going to be like a novel, or is it going to be fictional, science fiction, or what?
Origin of the Species.
Yeah,
folio of Shakespeare. I've got it.
Yeah,
folio of Shakespeare.
but is that? Yeah,
and
but then like, are you
Principia
pigeonholing?
Mathematica. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
it.
then are you,
Done.
are you
Busted.
pigeonholing in certain way? It's like so things, and then as like Sam said, like if anybody said, name 3 people that you would love to have a dinner with right now, boom, done. You know, like those are your 3. You're like, whoa, you know, because you can ask them anything. You're like, it would change. It would change, and I do
Shakespeare,
like
Gandhi,
that.
Jesus. It's always been that way. That's why Shakespeare, Gandhi, Jesus.
But that's
Fair
it. But
enough.
like, but other people be like, you know, like, oh, like
Churchill on
I,
a good
I,
day.
yeah,
Churchill on a
I
good
don't know,
day.
yeah, Jim Morrison, I don't know, Jimi
Mm.
Hendrix, and Janis Joplin. Let's have a wild time. You know,
Can I just
like,
have dinner with all of Club 27
yeah,
and just have a hell of a day?
yeah, exactly. People do like, you know, your time, the things, whatever around you is going to change. But like, yeah, I like the motive behind this story, and I think this is why it works as a short story, because it makes you go and that's it. And I think it's like, yeah, it's prevalent, like because they could introduce it. I think there's a 30s one as well, movie. It's like it descends time as it's
It
the
does.
time machine, because it is about the the morality of man, the premise of knowing from your mistakes. And I think right now, and I didn't realize that, we've got this in the next for a couple of days. It was like
Yep.
the morality and the mistakes of man, of like of what time, and the media, and what, especially this movie, what they can do it, and knowing
The
your
dumbing
instinct.
down. You know, the
Yeah,
media
and
theme there, that's the dumbing down. You know,
yeah.
what reality is today is that's what the media is doing.
Mm. So yeah, I can't, I really appreciated. I didn't realize because the wheel of time and the wheel of fortune tells us what to watch, and I
You
don't know,
said the
well,
wheel of time again.
the wheel of time. I know, but
I
you know,
love
but
that.
we've got so much shit going. I'm going to call it what it is on the media at the moment, because we've had, especially in the UK, we've had the budget. We've had now the new Conservative leader being announced today, and we've got the funfair that is the American elections. And you just kind of like, oh my god, I want to dole it down. And this movie kind of steps you back, and it makes you go, yes, this is kind of thing. So I think this is prevalent, not just back in the 60s and back in like the early part of the 1900s. Is literally like, you just need to sit back and trying to think of what's going on. And I liked it because it gave that break. It gave me watching this. It's going, oh my god, I don't want to listen to any news at the moment. Please leave it. And then this kind of going, I went, huh. Makes you think, makes you realize what's going on. There's, you know, there is the existence of man, not the existence of politics, not the existence of media, not the existence of things. There is a exploration of man, and like whatever people think, I'm going to name it, like science will build those bridges, maths, the universal language, you know, it will give that bridge like that. I loved how it kind of incited that of, you know, of we can do better as a group and further apart as, you know, different nations, different political aspects. And I think they've subtly done it. And I like how I might be wrong onto Sandy's opinion, Jay's opinion, the chat's opinion, but I like how I can have that vocal opinion, and I can go, I'm going to shitball here on what I thought the time machine was. And I loved it. I love that. I love that conversation after.
No, I
That's me
agree.
done
I,
for
I
time.
think this movie is surprisingly thought-provoking for its time, and I don't mean that to disrespect its time at all. I just wasn't expecting it to be so applicable to things that still go on today. I didn't expect, you know, what kind of looking at just when, like I said, when we first picked this on the wheel, the first thing I usually do is just go IMDb it while we're sitting here so I can see what movie it is that I'll be watching. And, you know, seeing the little bits of the trailer that I was watching as it was muted, I didn't really think it would be this kind of complex of a time travel movie in terms of themes and story. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was going to be a little bit more campy, kind of what I almost said Stacy again, kind of what Sandy had said earlier about it feeling a little bit like
Sally,
Batman, the
Stacy,
Adam West
Shelley, it's
Batman.
fun.
You know, I thought it was going to be a little bit more campy sci-fi, kind of like some older Star Trek things like that. I was not prepared for it to deal with such complex theory topics, you know, from time travel to humanity, war, the way they've unfortunately been kind of peanut butter and jelly since, you know, the beginning of time. It was a very, very surprisingly thought-provoking movie, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yay! I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Sandy, go. Except for your rant.
It's not a rant. It's not a rant. I think I've said, I think you know where I stand on the book. The book is well written.
Yeah.
It is. It's in a style that I like. I also appreciate H.G. Wells and the style of those in his genre. You know, the Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, and others. I don't. The more I listen to you both talk about the film, I probably have my opinion of it has probably improved just a little bit. And so I want to bring up our notes. I'm sorry, our numbers page here, because I do want to give credit where credit is due. This film won an Oscar.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So this film won an Oscar for special effects.
No kidding.
And I was surprised. But I don't know why I was surprised, because in my head I had to keep reminding myself that this was 1960 and not the 1960s, because technically 1960 is the last
If
year
it's
of the 50s.
1960 release, so this is 1958,
Right, yeah, true.
57
That's a point.
technology.
It's
Yeah.
made in the 50s. It's the last year of the 50s.
Mhm.
So I had to remind myself of that, and definitely give it credit for that. So to compare it, it would be unfair to compare it to the films similar that came out in the 50s. But let's take a look. The budget was $829,000, which would be the equivalent of 8.92 million today. Pennies. This film made money. It more than tripled
Wow.
its investment, and it earned 2.6 million, which today is 27.9 million, adjusted for inflation. So this film made money. It won an Oscar for special effects, and it was beaten at the Hugo Awards. Now, we've talked before about the Saturn Awards, which are more leaning toward the sci-fi, fantasy, horror genre. The Hugo Awards are the pure science-y science fiction awards. And it was beaten by The Twilight Zone, the TV series. Now, I hope, Stasis James, I hope you've delved into The Twilight Zone, the amazing
I've
TV
never ever
series.
seen it. Of course, I have. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. As
Yes,
well as
yes,
The
yes.
Outer Limits.
I'm guessing the outer limits that
Those
you
were
are entering
fantastic.
the twilight zone.
They were always running on reruns we had
Yeah.
I always talk about our public TV station. That's one thing. Public TV is like the funded through donation, highbrow television. The kind of the opposite end of the spectrum is the independent local station, the Chibi, God bless, local station, WBFF Baltimore TV 45. They would run these. That's the same channel that ran that Ghost Host Theater that I shared with you both. But
Oh,
they
yes.
would run the Twilight Zone, the Outer Limits, the all those, kind of leaning toward I forget his name, but not, the kind of the sci-fi, um more mystical kind of, psychological type of shows. But
I think I'm not but as we are geeks, I think everybody we probably watched them, and even like Tales of the Crypt, that
Yes,
Mhm.
Tales of the Crypt.
that kind of really cheapy B kind of TV
Love
series. You're
it.
like, I like it.
Multiple
I
stories
like
being
it.
told in an
Yeah,
episode.
exactly. Yeah.
Made
Like I
with
remember, like even
love.
I say like, yeah, it's gonna be like things Erie, Indiana. I love that. It's like that kind of things, like weird, like that kind of cheap, like but
Mhm.
sci-fi, geeky, doesn't make sense, kind of like love, and that's what gets us into like this kind of genre, even to like other ones. Like that's what we love, some geeky TV shows. That's why
What
some of them
the
go.
best homage to those old shows
Mm.
is
Oh yeah,
in prior versions, in prior seasons, the Treehouse of Horror on The Simpsons,
Yep.
yeah.
goes for that vibe, that Twilight Zone-y vibe.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I was surprised it was beaten. But then again, Twilight Zone was so good. It
Mhm.
was so good. So yeah, so um it's a film I would definitely watch again. I would give the film, talking to you all, I kind of started at a 6.5. I would go to a 7. I would definitely
Mhm.
give this film a 7. I give the book a solid 8. And by the way, the book is in United States schools. This is a classic, right? It's in that group
Mhm.
of classics. So, James, you guys have your A levels. We have what are called AP exams. So in high school, in certain classes, everything from the core chemistry, physics. Um, for me, it was American literature and British literature, those two classes that you would take a test. You had to read a number of the classics and know them inside and out, and then you would take a test to get college credit. So you didn't get these big scores like you get your A levels and your O levels. We don't have that, but if you tested out and got AP credits, then when you got to college, you started college ahead of the curve. So I was incredibly lucky to start college with 11 college credits because of the courses that I had taken. Um, and the Brit Lit and American Lit were the two that I got the big scores on. So you had to read these as the quote classics, and this is one of them for very good reason.
I think it's like we just read it, and I mean, like we didn't like you didn't have to take a test, but these are ones that like must be like years, like for what we call year 7, year 8, so 11, 12-year-olds.
Okay. Yeah, and
You would
ours would have
read,
been like sophomore year of high school.
yeah, you would
For
read
some
it,
reason,
and
we didn't do
yeah,
the British books until we got to
no,
high school.
no, like you would like I suppose like if you get things later, you would get like Shakespeare course, like
Mhm.
you have to do it. Like you had a
Yeah.
English literature would be on there, and you'd have the classics as not just Shakespeare, but the other ones. But you would have like this, and like even like 1984. Now,
We
like
had
that was
Animal Farm. Yep,
like animals,
1984.
the
1984
Animal
was one for
Farm,
us. When we did Brit Lit, it was things like Chaucer,
yeah,
Sir
Beowulf. You had your
Gawain,
Beowulf.
yeah,
Beowulf, right? Yep, some of those.
You
yeah, like
either had, let me guess, you either had
We did
Heart of
American.
Darkness or Return of the Native. It was always one or the other.
Mhm.
And you probably had a dreadful stint with James Joyce, which I can't do the stream of consciousness writing, but we had to do Ulysses or the Portrait of the Artist as a young man. Ugh.
I don't think I had
I,
any of those actually. At my school we had, and during our senior year, it was the first half of the year you did American Lit, and then the shoot. Now I'm trying to think. Was first half? Our first half might have been Brit Lit, and then
Uh-huh.
second half was American. But we basically split it up senior year. So you'd do British literature one half, and you'd do American literature the other half.
Oh,
well,
got it.
the American literature couldn't have taken that long.
Oh, it was superior.
There's not a lot of it. Don't
It's not a lot, but it's of high quality.
What we read in
I'm gonna be
American
honest. I
Lit
can't remember what the hell
were
we read in it.
we read a lot of essays.
Brit
So
Lit
we would
ones
have
do stand
How
out
many
more.
years? I don't know. Yeah.
well, we would have had the Gettysburg Address as part of American Lit. We would have had Moby
Trying to
Dick,
think.
Herman Melville, Nathaniel Hawthorne, um, Henry David Thoreau, and things like George Washington's second inaugural address. Those sort of so it was a mix of essays
Yeah, we
and
would have got
books.
everything from probably the 5th century.
Yeah, we know you have more of it. History's better in Britain. There's more of it. Understood.
Abe's got a brilliant one here. That's got to be highlighted.
Gen Z, yeah,
I do
TikTok
TikTok
lit.
is lit.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
bloody hell.
Unfortunately, Abe, yeah, sounds about right.
I know.
Oh,
Sad. Wah.
it's terrible. Yeah. Anyway, otherwise than that, Jay, as it was your first time,
Mhm.
the time machine,
Mhm.
go, and I'm going to give mine.
So for all the things I said before, it's thought-provoking nature, its applicability to things that are still going on today in terms of humanity and war and all that kind of stuff. Then there comes just the fundamental side of things in terms of the writing, the acting, the effects, what they were able to do, given the technology constraints of the time. I thought was really impressive. I give it a solid, not even just solid, an incredibly strong 7. I highly recommend it. I'm going to be honest, I loved it.
I'm
It's
so
one
glad
that
you
I'm definitely gonna it's one that I'm definitely gonna watch again. And I'll watch it whenever it's on, type of thing. Like Sandy said, I'm unfortunately not flicking through channels incredibly often anymore, unless I'm watching my Celtics or something. But if it is on TV and I see it, I'll watch it. But I'll go out of my way to watch this one again. I want to buy a little, like I said, a little replica time machine. I want my plaid smoking jacket. I fell in love with this movie. I really loved
We
it.
want to see pictures of that. We need to see pictures of that.
No,
Oh.
it's a high recommend for me.
It is. No, yeah, I adore the concept of this movie. I think it's a great thing.
Mhm.
I like, as you say, I think the iconicness of the chair and the way he looks as like he is the iconic, I suppose, before Doctor Who. That is the dress.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
give
yeah.
it all that. Like that is the time machine. That is, like the TARDIS. That is that whoever
Yep.
I'm guessing got that reference. Blah blah blah. You're like, oh, they're looking at it the same. Like Doctor Who's, way things, but it's kind of like the American, the British kind of, Doctor Who. This is the American Doctor Who. And it is that kind of things. Like if they carried this on, like I'm not being oddball, this could be a rival to Doctor Who. This could have been.
Could have been.
It could have been.
I
like that kind of.
No, absolutely. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
That was just a perfect way, because I've tried to watch the more recent Doctor Who, starting with the gentleman before David Tennant. His name is slipping my mind. The guy who did the one
Matt Smith?
season.
Christopher Eccleston. I
Eccleston,
like
Eccleston,
him.
yes.
Okay,
So I started trying to get into Doctor Who after it was a few years back, listening to kind of Gary and Az, kind of hate the current Doctor Who of that time. I believe the Jodie Foster one. So I kind of tried to get into it, starting with Eccleston's, and I watched the first half of the season. I just couldn't quite get into
Start
it.
with Tom Baker. Go back
Oh,
to
fair
Tom
enough.
Baker.
I'll have to go back further than
I'm not but
get it. This one was like the second I watched it, I was into it. I really, really liked it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think like I agree. Like Eccleston, I'm not a doctor. I always put my hands up. I throw mine. Don't know the law. Don't know that I watch it as a TV a fan. And there's certain doctors I don't like. I just don't like, and I just can't get into them. And I just because of that, I'm not a Doctor Who fan. I couldn't
quite get into it. And that was what, like the 2000s for Eccleston?
Yeah, I just like,
and I loved it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't care. I just don't care, and I'll find out, and I might get hurt for that, and people going, "Oh, you don't like Doctor Who, you need to watch it." And I understand the love of it, and I understand the concept. Sylvester McCoy was my era. And I used to like it, but otherwise from that, I just dropped off. I did drop off, and that's it. But this one, I could get where this could have gone and should have gone. If they people had more sense of time, like how things time, like whatever. Yeah. No, thank you. But this for me, I'm the reason. Like now, I'm gonna be a bit more pedantic. I'm gonna score this a 6 out of 10. Only because, and this is where it's gonna like things, because the book, guaranteed, the book is like an 8.
Yeah,
maybe like coming up 8.5.
Yeah,
It's much better. But the Guy Pearce ones, I'm gonna say it again, is a better movie than this.
I will have to check it out.
Yeah, you have to check. It's 2002. It's a better movie, and the reason I don't score them different because that one's a better movie, but I score it as the movie is, because I get the nuance of what you, if you take it as a movie as it is, it's a 6 out of 10 for me.
Mhm.
But your brain and what it makes you turn it off. Let's have a talk. It's
Mhm.
great, and that
Yes.
probably ups it up in your head as a better movie as it is, because of the what you can have a conversation with. The let's have a philosophical discussion, and I think this is what we've had.
Yeah.
This has not been
Mhm.
about literally what we've done in other movies, literally clip by clip, blah 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 blah.
You're
We've
right.
spoken around aspects of what the movie entailed onto the time zone it was in, but the broader of what the humanity is. And I
Mhm.
think that's why then it goes up. Definitely bumps it up a level. But yeah, I love that, and that's why I love the book. I think the
Mhm.
book. That's why I was like, shall I read the book? Shall I read the book? Read the book? And I was like, no, I'm not going to. There is one book on that's I've done a list of all the books, and there's one book I really want to read now, because I didn't realize it was a book. But this one, I was like, no, I'm going to stand back and I'm going to take it as a movie as it is,
Mhm.
because I think, Jay, I would recommend the book. I would
Well,
100%. I
Mhm.
think because
It's
it's
a
so
quick
short,
read. It's a
it's a
really
quick,
quick read.
it's a quick read. You can read it in like in your leisure or
Right.
audio book, but it's so the insight of it gives you that thought-provoking moments this movie does, but as your brain will go boom. So anybody, I love the movie. I recommended the movie, but I would highly just go. This is the one I would say, go get the book, go listen to the
love
book,
that.
go read the
And
book.
it's
Yeah,
funny you say
please.
that, because I would 100% say this movie honestly kind of almost opened up a new fandom for me. I want to watch the Guy Pearce one now. I want to read the book, and I actually almost want to read more H.G. Wells, because I've always known he's such a prolific author, and I've never really read, and I've not really read, I've never read anything from him. So it's kind of opened up a whole new
Nice.
world that I can nerd out in, which is what you want from a movie.
And that's what film club's
Right,
about.
exactly. So I would agree with Stasis there. From somebody who's
Hey,
now
I
kind
read
of
Battle
adopting that,
Royale. Oh
I
my
agree.
gosh.
I think
Yeah.
reading the book is the next thing I'm going to do. I would recommend, if you like the movie, check it out too, because like I said, it left me with such a good, a good taste in your mouth type of thing, that I just want to have more and explore more of it, and then just explore more of H.G. Wells' work.
Now, on the point of we may get Sandy to read something more, because now being my geek as I am, I was nice enough to go through our list of the wheel, and I will go what we've added. I did every book that is a book, and took off all the plays, everything like that, and then put the authors on. So Sandy might have a lot to read.
Oh, I appreciate that. No, I love it. This has been, every once in a while there's a really long one, but I'm blessed in a way to have a very long commute every morning. I am in my car 4 hours a day, 2 hours one way and 2 hours the other. And I'm lucky I can do some business meetings while I'm driving, but for the most part, I'm listening to audiobooks.
Mhm.
So it's a great way to make the most of my time and to catch up, because for years my reading really fell by the way. I keep a reading journal, of book reports, and there are big gaps. There are years that go by where I didn't read a book because of work, or having
Mhm.
little kids or whatever. So this year I've really caught up, and more importantly, these aren't books that I'm seeking or choosing. The wheel is giving them to me, and I'm so glad. I would not
The
have
will.
read Battle Royale at all ever in my life, would I have not picked
Mhm.
up that book, and I'm so glad I did. That book was amazing.
Mhm.
So I'm really glad. So I'm glad. Thank you for updating the list with all the books, and you know,
I must say there was actually Gods and Generals and Gettysburg. I didn't know they were the comparison of the books I put on. So that is actually, I was actually, ooh. But there's like other ones on there. I'm like, that was definitely a book. What was it? Dead Poet Society.
Yep.
That is on our list. I thought that was a book, not a book.
Nope.
Not a
Screenplay.
book. Yeah, screenplay only.
Nope,
So
but
there's a lot
Stand
on
by
there.
Me is. And
Yeah,
you were
and
mentioning
then
how many books by Stephen King.
yeah,
And
then
Stand by Me.
yeah, Stand by Me, the body, it's called.
The Body.
Yeah,
Mhm,
so, yeah,
Anya
and there
Bell.
was other ones like here we go, Cocktail, a Crocodile Dundee, that you don't die.
Oh,
But
dear
I had
Lord.
that, and then but it's a book based on a book. It's
Oh,
a
geez.
actual
That
book,
one
and I was like,
never
wow.
would have thought.
And I was like, there you go. So if they come up, you got books to read. There was something like
Crocodile
now,
Dundee, great.
oh my god, yeah, it's based on a real guy. That's it. That is the best thing. Yeah. But anyway, so from last time, the last time, what we've introduced, we added some more light-hearted and a bit more comedy into our thing. So there might be ones that you might go, oh, they weren't on the list last time. We tried to make it light-hearted because we realized there were a lot of
heavy
heavy
on this list.
heavy drama kind of war movies on there. So we've kind of added, well, not many, like there's just something like that, but we've tried to, but I'm guessing there's going to be some it's going to be probably a war movie like that, to be honest. But so I've now, Sandy, you nailed it on the head one time with Event Horizon. So what out of them all, what are you hoping for?
I gotta go with something completely different. So because you got Stephen King in my mind, which if this comes up, we are going to spend a lot of time talking about his writing style because he can't stick the landing, but his ideas are amazing. So Misery, go for Misery.
Okay, yeah. What is a different book to the movie, but good movie? Yeah. Jay.
So on our film club background here, for some reason today, my eyes were very focused on Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I'm going with Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay, if that happens, we can go back to back because I watched it last night.
Perfect. There we go.
I was like,
and I watched it probably just a couple weeks ago. So fair enough.
Now, I think what would be interesting, because they're making a remake, it's a remake. Sorry, it's a make of the remake of the remake. A TV show of the Day of the Jackal. So I think the Day of the Jackal, I'm going to go for Day of the Jackal. That is literally out there, only because they've now done a TV show. I think it's next week it's going to be released, and I like the 1970s version. The Jackal with Bruce Willis, bless his soul, is horrid. I don't like it at all. But yeah, Day of Jackal.
That sounds familiar. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm like, the name of that movie sounds super familiar.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that version. Or otherwise, it's got to be Back to the Future, hasn't it? Really. If we get Back to the Future,
well, think about all the films we have with time travel. We got Back to the Future, Groundhog Day. Yeah, I mean.
Okay. So sorry, I'm just going to break it. So next is Zulu. What could follow on for Zulu?
Chat, what do you think?
I'm just thinking, because how it gets weird. We're probably going to get something like something Christmassy or something like that. I don't know. We just don't know. Something like that. But are we ready?
No, I'm ready.
As always, are we ready? Now, we've got no more shorts, Sandy. So 5, 4, 3. I'm more excited about this one. I don't know why than any other one. Probably because it's later in the night for me. All right. 3,
getting a little slap happy.
2, 1.
Oh yeah, Ben, we definitely need that one.
Ooh, okay.
With the curve. I've never heard of this one.
Yeah.
I don't know that film.
Let me.
Clint Eastwood. Okay, Clint Eastwood. We're going. It's one of the newer ones I've just put on. Clint Eastwood. It's baseball.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
it's baseball.
Okay, I've never seen it.
This was recent. Well, recent-ish.
Yeah, it's one of the recent ones. So this is one of the light-hearted ones that we put on later. There we go. So it's about baseball. So there we go. So we're going full on Trouble with the Curve.
I'm
the Curve.
Baseball film.
There we go. So Clint Eastwood directed.
What's film? I think, right? First,
yes, it is. Yeah, sports,
we've done a
yeah,
sports
must
film.
be. Yeah, we go. So this is Clint Eastwood directed. He stars in it. Amy Adams is in it.
Mhm.
They have loads. What's
John
his name?
Goodman.
John Goodman. But what's his name? Justin Bieber. No, not Justin Bieber.
Timberlake.
No,
Justin
Timberlake.
Bieber.
No, Timberlake.
Named Justin.
Yeah, Timberlake. Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm guessing you guys. I like it as a movie. You guys are gonna introduce some baseball facts to me.
Oh, okay. So
I
we're gonna
do
have to
love that you're
educate you.
calling the sport by its correct and proper name, which is baseball, not rounders.
Not rounders.
That's a good step in the right direction.
Introduced it by rounders. Yeah. Except for isn't the now sport more heavily produced in Japan and better played in Japan?
It's been overly. There's been an influx of what they like to call the nerds in baseball, which is just an over-the-top amount of extreme advanced analytics that's kind of killing the sport. Unfortunately.
Oh, so we need
Yeah.
Moneyball on here then, do we?
So Moneyball
I
is
like
actually
Moneyball.
It's
I
one
like
of my favorite
Moneyball.
movies,
I love
and
it.
I see it right at the bottom of our background
It is,
every
yeah.
time we do this, and I'm pissed that I forgot to put it on the list. It's totally spaced, and I love
Well
Moneyball.
done.
Well, add it to the list
We
because
might have to make a little
Yeah.
exception for that one because I wish I put it on. I meant to and totally forgot, but I love Moneyball. That
There
movie's
you
so
go.
good.
So, so Trouble in the Curve. After the Dodgers, I believe, just won the
They beat the Yankees.
World,
Thank
the
you.
World Series. Huh?
They beat the Yankees, thank God. As a Red Sox fan, I hate seeing those guys win anything.
it's not a book.
Oh,
It's
nice.
not a
Oh,
book.
get a little
There you
break
go.
then there.
Are you sure? Did I put it as not a book? There we go.
It's not
So
a
there you
book, and interestingly enough, following its release, the film became subject of a hot plagiarism lawsuit
Mm.
Oh yeah.
because the producer alleged that his former or a producer alleged that his former partner had taken the unfinished script and turned it into Warner Brothers.
Okay.
So and that lawsuit. Okay, so this film was a while ago, 2012. The lawsuit's still going on.
Yeah. There you go. And
Lord.
there we go.
Two of
So we
America's
got-
pastimes: baseball
Yeah.
and suing each other.
And lawsuits, yeah.
So sorry. So next one we've got throwing spears and then throwing baseballs at each other. Just saying.
Fair enough.
There we go. But yeah, this I like this. I like this movie. I do like this movie. This is actually mine. How could a Brit put a baseball movie up there?
This is one that slipped by me when it came. I vividly remember it now that I'm looking at it, but it just slipped by me. I'd like to see what else came out in 2012 that I missed this one.
It's a Clint.
I
Yeah,
was
Clint
always
Eastwood.
interested, just never
Yeah.
saw it.
I think Clint Eastwood when he's got like what is he now 90 odd?
Yeah, something like that. He's up there.
You know, like them
His son's in this too,
actors,
actually.
them directors or whatever. Like you go, I'd be sorry. You know, like oh, that hit me. Clint Eastwood. It just gonna like Sir Alec Guinness was mine. I know my girlfriend like Robin Williams, and when Bruce Willis goes, that will hurt. Them ones are hurt. Clint Eastwood for me, just because of like I've probably near enough seen all his movies, even the bad ones, like you know, like and like the impact he's had on like being a B star. Really, he's a B star kind of like, and what he's done, like a fair play. That's it. But yeah, this one, he likes his sports. I bought a couple of sports ones. This is a new one, so we got a new one. A little heartwarming, little bit of it's going to be a heartwarming. And both
I'm actually really excited for this one.
I'm very surprised you both not seen it. I'm very, very surprised. I was like, this is. Yeah,
this would have been like a year after Moneyball too, I think. So there's a chance. I want to say Moneyball was about 2011. So there's a chance it missed me because I loved Moneyball so much. I looked at it and might have thought like, I don't know if it's going to be the same or trying to do it not trying to do what Moneyball did. Obviously, it's a different story, but I felt like it was maybe a little bit of Hollywood taking a trend, so I might have skipped it. I really can't remember why I skipped this one.
Yeah,
because Moneyball had just come out. I loved it.
This one is like when Moneyball is a baseball. It's a baseball movie. It is literally, you know, where It's got the where did you say like the analytics?
What,
Coming
right?
in.
The birth of the nerds in sports.
Yeah.
Especially
It's got that. This one has baseball, but I would say it's 50%
more of a
baseball,
human story.
50% the human story behind it, and it's
Mm.
very, very well. And John Goodman in it.
He's brilliant.
He's brilliant, and he's really good in this, and he's literally snippet of it. And it's got the guy who forgot his name. Scooby Doo.
Matthew Lillard. Yep, I just saw.
Yeah. He's in it. Like, yeah, it's like, but yeah, it's a very, it's yeah. Sandy, do you like baseball?
I love baseball. I'm looking right now at 8 Men Out on
Orioles
my
fan, you
shelf.
would be, no?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I am a huge baseball fan. Okay, I'm going to say something now. No one will ever get this, but the internet is forever. Ready? Boddicker, Davis, Flanagan, Martinez, McGregor, Palmer, Stewart, Stoddard, Dempsey, Nolan, Cruz, Darren Murray, Ripken, Ayala. That is the last lineup that won the World Series
Yep,
for the
Orioles.
Baltimore Orioles. And the reason why I could rattle off those names is because the pennant used to hang above my bed as a kid, and I would look at those names every single night. So here we are, 41 years after the Orioles won a World Series. And yes, I can name every member of that team. So what was that question again? Do I like baseball?
So, and now I know we are division rivals. So yes, Sandy and I are division rivals here. I am a Red Sox fan, but if you do love baseball or just sports in general, Netflix currently has I believe it's a documentary. I'm not sure if it's a documentary or not. I believe it is, of the 04 Red Sox win when we finally reversed the curse, came back against the Yankees. If you are a sports fan,
what's it called? What's his name? The something curse. What was it called? It actually had a name today. It was the
curse of the Bambino.
The Bambino.
From when we traded Babe Ruth to the Yankees because our owner was just looking for money.
Baltimore,
we had never won again. It was 82 years till we won another World Series, and living that, obviously I'm incredibly biased because I lived through it as a kid, and I was in 6th, 7th grade, so it was just like the biggest thing for us as kids and all that. But this new documentary, I haven't watched it yet, but all my buddies, again, they're all biased too. They are saying it's fantastic.
Okay,
and if you don't know the story of that series, watching it is just, it is truly magic. It's the romance of baseball. Even if you don't like the Red Sox, it's well worth checking out. Exactly how that all played out.
For this Trouble of the Curve, I will try and fit into it. I have an originals, I think it's 88 Red Sox t-shirt. My dad when he worked in Boston, he brought back this t-shirt.
Nice.
It's like it's a blue one. It's very rare. It's like that
with the red lettering.
Yeah,
it's very classic. Very
classic.
And
I was like, so there you go. So, but yeah, I'm nominable.
So James,
the English are not very into the baseball. Let's say
you should be until 1984.
We have cricket. We have cricket.
Okay.
It is such a beautiful sport. I know it can be boring, especially today's baseball. It's not quite the same as even so much as that 04 era.
But that's why I'm nominable.
Something so beautiful about that sport.
The European game. I suppose any European games, they're fast flowing. Too much media advertisement, like boom, like stops it. Even like American football, like from back when, like the 90s when it came over. Now it's just stop and start. That's why nobody watches it. It's just like stop it, stop starting, stop. Like even
that's
cricket.
One thing I do love
about like cricket is a very slow sport, but they don't put advertisements in when the batsman is going back to their crease, and the bowlman, like the bowler is going back to their start. They leave it. They talk, and that's it. But you,
that's one thing American sports are starting to copy a little bit more, especially basketball. Basketball always tends to be the most adoptive of European ideas for some reason or another. So, for example, they're starting to put for the past few years they've been putting advertisements, essentially sponsors for certain companies on the team's uniforms, just like you'd see in football, European football, or I'll give you guys this one, actual football, but and obviously in football they've got the sponsors on the jerseys, on the kits. they've got it all around the border of the pitch, all game long, so they don't have to take these commercial breaks. It's just free flowing, game the whole time. And American sports are trying to catch up with that to a degree. Basketball has been the best. They do CGI, not CGI, but just digitally, they'll put logos for companies on the court as the guys are playing, as opposed to before where they have to actually like put them on the court with the paint and all that. So they're switching them up and all that and getting different advertisements throughout the game as the guys are playing on top of it. So they tried to move towards that. And I think that's such a good thing that football in Europe does, is the way that they do advertisements during the games, whether it's on the kits or on the field surrounding the pitch, because it does cut that commercial stuff. Football is not going to be able to figure that out anytime soon. I don't think they're going to go the way of advertisements on jerseys or uniforms. And baseball suffers a whole other issue of baseball purists not wanting to change the game. So things like your pitch clocks,
is long enough already.
They fought tooth and nail to get pitch clocks in and all these different rules just to speed up the natural habits of the game, because the way it's played is so slow. Pitches used to take at times like 5 minutes between pitches. And it's like, you can't expect people to watch 4 hours of baseball. You got to get this thing 2.5 hours. So
Well, that's what I like.
we have an issue with
go
that.
to a live game, go to the end innings, turn up.
Honestly, you could show up for the last couple innings and just enjoy that, and you'll still get a good hour and a half out of it, because the game is played.
Stop serving beer in the 7th inning. So
oh god, and that's the most frustrating thing. Sorry, that's my American sports needing to fix some of their speed issues.
They stopped serving beer in the 7th inning, so you don't drive home drunk.
Right. Although even if you're drinking, if you get a beer in the 7th, it's still 3 hours before the
game numbers you in the 1st and the 7th.
There's enough time, like Jay said, there's still 3 hours to go.
Plenty of time to sober up.
You'll sober up, it'll be fine. That'd be great. Oh my, yes, the great Americans. But I'm glad, because we do now have. I've put on there. You might see it. There is two. I believe I put 2 American football movies. At least there is there was already
one that I know. Any Given Sunday, is that the one?
No, that's not on there. I did not put that. I didn't put that.
Brian's song.
No. Do you want me to name them? Do you want
which one?
Yeah, what would it be?
Okay, I'm gonna put to the. Okay, let me just bring this up. I'm not going to show that.
Brian's song is classic.
No, okay. I'm going to go for the older one first, and hopefully you've. What is it? Sorry, let me just quickly. Rudy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
God, no.
I'm going to do it
Rudy
because it is a thing.
Sorry.
And then
did I react there? Sorry.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Oh, we know some movies, and then a newer movie.
And asked him, by the way.
The American Underdog.
Oh, with Kurt, the Kurt Warner story. Yeah. With, Zachary Levi. I couldn't think of his name. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I watched this in France. I don't know why it was playing in France. I watched it in Paris. And I was like,
what an interesting place for that.
Yeah, and I was like, my girlfriend went to sleep, and I was like, what a bloody good movie, and I made her watch it the next day. That was it. So, let's say that American. Well, let's say.
Have you ever watched Radio? Radio was a sports movie that was more about, again, the human side of thing on football. It's Cuba Gooding Jr. It's really, really heartfelt, good movie. I remember really enjoying it. It's early 2000s. Tells this. It's a true story too. It tells the story of a person with who was born with obviously. Trying to think make sure I don't misspeak when I say it. Mental issues in terms of development, issues. Couldn't think of the way to say it. Born with development issues, and he's kind of a local guy who used to, would push around a shopping cart and hang around the high school football field. And it's some way or another he gets involved with being the equipment manager for the team, and he's very intrigued by radio, so he gets the nickname Radio, and he becomes a beloved.
Is it like Waterboy? Is it Waterboy?
No. It's an actual drama.
I know.
It's good.
I've never heard it. It's a funny thing.
I wish I thought of sports movies when we were making.
There you go. So we are. But like we got most. By the way, Sandy, they all so far. You got to read 8 Men Out.
8 Men Out is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we got 8 Men Out. That's it.
That's a book.
That's a book. Yeah, we read that
Yeah,
book in
the
middle
book
school.
is a book. Field of
Yes.
Dreams is a book, and the book
Eh,
is called.
I've never liked Field of Dream much.
I never liked Field of Dreams. Hate
Okay,
that
but
film.
that is Shoeless Joe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true
yeah,
story,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's about 8 Man Out is the better Shoeless Joe story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that
Because
is
it's
yeah.
true. It's actually a business book. It's a business ethics book. It's more about the ethics of what happened or didn't happen.
Mhm.
It's on my shelf so there's 8 Men Out, there's The Smartest Guys in the Room, there's Too Big to Fail, those it's in that kind. There's Madoff, those kinds of business
Mhm.
ethics. Bad Blood, the Theranos story. Yeah, I got all my business ethics books over there. But I thought about sports films when I was making the list, and I think Field of Dreams was the only one that came to mind because
Mm.
I guess slapstick is kind of a classic, but I just couldn't bring myself to put it on the list.
I've got that on my list. I have to.
You
love
did
that. I love
put it on the list?
100%. I would have put more. I would have put more ice hockey on ice hockey. We've only got one basketball. Remember the Titans?
Nope, that's football.
Football.
Is
That's
it football? Is it
That was
football?
football.
Is it football? Oh, is it? Yeah.
Then we got
okay.
Trying
Rocky.
to think of a good
Rocky,
basketball.
yeah,
There
okay.
hasn't been any great basketball ones.
Okay.
Great White
that I
Hope.
can think of. I don't even know that I've seen that. I
So
think
we
in
got
my
Slap-
lifetime, like Coach Carter, which was fine. It
Okay,
wasn't
yeah, that's a
great. It was
Disney one. It
fine.
with is that
Yes, it was
Denzel?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson.
It was fine. It was
Yeah.
back in the day, liked it, but I don't know how it holds up today as an adult watching it.
Yeah. But it's still a good movie. It's still enjoy it.
I definitely remember enjoying
Yeah.
it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Just, again,
But yeah,
another
we
true
got-
story.
So the only ice hockey one is Slapshot. I could
Miracle didn't make it for you, Stasis? Did you like Miracle? Not like
Did I
Miracle?
not?
I don't mind it. That is with what's his face? Oh, what's
That's
his
the
name?
US and Russia.
Yeah.
the Olympics ones.
I'm about. But there is
I
there
can't
are
think of the
better
guy's
ones
name
out there.
because of it.
Yeah.
The TV
Is it Dennis
version
Quaid?
is
Is Dennis
better.
Quaid?
Is it? Let me look it up right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
The
that,
TV
yeah, that's
version,
true.
Miracle on Ice, was better than the film Miracle.
Just seeing what else is there. We've
And
got.
then, you know what? Okay, this is not a sports film, but I liked Munich.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Munich. Oh yeah, Kurt
Yeah.
Russell. That's it. Yeah. But we also have. I've just recently put on. And I'm guaranteeing you both. I will put money on. Now there's only probably one person in chat that may have seen it. This is the only British football movie.
Bend It Like Beckham. Love that film.
No.
I'm a girl. I have to love
it's-
Bend It Like Beckham.
Okay, this is probably the only movie you
Ladybugs
will
with
ever
Rodney
watch.
Dangerfield.
No, you will ever watch where Sean Bean does not die.
Oh, what is
And,
it? I'm
and
not
it's
sure.
a soccer movie, as you guys would call it, and it's called When Saturday Comes.
Oh,
I've never heard of it.
I thought you were going to say it's one about the No Man's Land. The
No.
Christmas game on No Man's Land.
No.
Because that could be
It's about. I bet Abe knows about it. It's about Sheffield United. Because he's from Sheffield, Sean Bean, and this is a movie he wanted to do about his boyhood.
That's pretty cool.
Boyhood club, and it's actually it's about the Yorkshire. It's about like Sheffield. It's about it's not about the football really, but it's about the people, the heartache and all that around that time. It's a very good British. I've put a few on there. This one is British, and he doesn't die. He doesn't die in the end. Well, that I remember. I'm sure he doesn't get a bad tackle. Yeah, but then I actually was on about, do we introduce rugby? There's a good rugby, and there is one called, I think it's called 84, 82. There's a great cricket one. And I'm might have to put a rugby and a cricket one on the thing just to go. If they come up, they have to watch cricket and rugby.
Well, you do realize we have 294 on this list.
Yeah, I know. But Invictus, you must have seen Invictus.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Freeman,
And
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Oh,
It's
you
not
know
great.
what? No.
I've seen it, but so long ago, I
Escape to
can't remember much.
Victory. You don't have
Oh no,
Escape to Victory on
Stephen! No! That's not a football movie.
I know. We just call it Victory here in the
Oh,
States. It's
do
just called
you?
Victory.
Oh my god, that is one movie like Sylvester Stallone, and you're
That was
like,
one of those family films here.
oh
Like whenever it's on, the family gets together and you watch Escape to Victory/Victory.
yeah, but everybody forgets because Sylvester Stallone's in it. That except for Pele, that and probably um what's it? DJs. Like they're all football players. They're all proper football players. Even the guys who are playing the what's it? The
We know what it is.
concentration camp guys. They lost weight. They
Yeah.
are actually Polish, Romanian, actual international
Oh
players.
wow.
They lost weight to play the role so that they couldn't be as players, to actually just prove that they wanted to, we are part of the team as internationals and we want to go
It's
through
the
the
Sound of
experience.
Music with soccer in
Yeah.
World War II. I mean,
Yeah.
well, Sound of Music is World War II, but it's the basically, hey, we're going to put on a show / play a game and then escape, right? It's the Sound of Music.
And it's the worst thing is like the hero, who the hero is, the American. Like,
Steve McQueen
playing
all over
soccer,
again.
come on. No,
Steve McQueen all over
even
again.
your women's team's crap now.
We don't have the Sound of Music on our list. I mean, I'm glad
no.
we don't.
Yeah,
glad-
that was
glad we
one as a
don't.
kid that I've never watched it in its entirety because I used to hate when they would try to force us to watch it in school and stuff.
Or
Okay.
sing
And
all
I
the
just
songs.
it gave me like scarred effect where I just don't even want to watch
We might have
it.
just, if we put that on there, I can guarantee if we put that on there, we will get a guest slot
I know for sure we will.
for Dan,
Mr.
Mr.
Porkchop.
Porkchop.
Is that a favorite of his?
Oh, he
He's a
knows all the lyrics.
No shit. Oh, that's awesome.
He's a
Just saying,
theater guy.
just saying, Saint Dan. We don't know what's going on there. No other person in the world knows all the lyrics to Sound of Music,
Oh,
and
that's
I
brilliant.
hate that. I hate that movie. Not just because it's a bad
don't
historical.
hate it.
It's I hate it. I hate
I
it.
don't hate it.
I hate it. I hate it.
It's not
I
great.
hate that.
opinion
Oh
comes
my
from being
God,
scarred
no,
by being trying to forced to watch
Yes,
it.
yes,
I
it's
don't
been
have
scarred.
an
Yes.
actual on its movie
Oh.
itself.
Okay.
No, that would be false down there. Be like, no.
Mhm.
The only ways you could get me to watch that if Dan came on. I'd be like, okay. Because I would
I
love
could agree with
let
that.
them run.
If you'll come on to talk about it and maybe sing a verse or two, I will watch The Sound of
Oh.
Music.
So yeah.
Yodel-day,
Anyway,
yodel-day, yodel-day.
Quick pop quiz for the panel here and chat. Does anybody know how we got to this topic from where we wrapped up the movie? Because I have no clue. I'm not really sure.
there we go.
This is what
And that's what
happens.
the film club does. We rant, we watch, we rant, we love. There we go. That was it. We should just do randoms. There we go. So, but yeah. So, well, we go back. So we've got next Zulu. There we go. So again, we don't know what's going. A Boer War. So this is it. Well, this is just Zulu is 10 years before the Boer War. I want to say, like the science there. So we're in the late part of the 18th century. Sorry,
Oh, would've been
19th
cool if
century.
we had Zulu then time machine. It would have kind of
Yeah. They would have lined it right up. So like we're on about that. So it's has everybody Jay, you've seen Zulu?
I have not seen this one yet. No.
Seen Zulu. Okay, so this is it's classed as a Michael Caine movie. I never have, and you watch it and you understand that. I don't
He's
think
pretty
Yeah.
far down the billing too. When I was
he
looking it
is,
up,
but
he's
yeah,
really
I think
down
it's because he became the more famous afterwards. But yeah, this
Yeah.
is
kind of a
very
retroactive billing as a Michael Caine movie.
Sandy, is there a book?
Yes, there's
There's
a
got-
book
yeah,
and there's some
yeah.
history, obviously, to look at. I
Yes.
think I'm going to do a little research. I think I've seen a making of this film. Why do I think I've seen something about the
Maybe.
making of this film?
There
I'm
is a
gonna look-
TV series that is literally expands on
No.
this, but yeah, I don't remember. a
No, I think
making
I've seen
of.
something about behind the scenes. So I'm going to look that up too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that'd be good. And
Yeah, I
there
know
we go.
Sharp. Yeah, no, Sharp.
But,
No.
yeah, it's sharp. Yeah. But this is great because we got Zulu, people in throwing spears at each other. Now after Tuesday, might happen again, so we might be right on cue to watch
Oh,
Zulu.
stop
You
it.
might.
It's gonna be a big nothing burger. It's already over. So,
So
you know,
you never know.
we're
You know, like I
fine.
always
We're
say, like
all
you never, like ancient politics, American politics of the day. You never know. But
Have
all I have
politics
to
really
say,
changed over time? Let's be honest, not
yeah,
really.
but all I have to say is, as the time machine has taught us, just be good to each other and learn
Yeah,
from each other.
seriously.
Bloody hell. It's
amen.
it's a political parties, it's not your life. There we
Mhm.
go. But yeah, apart from that, so we have that, have a bit of fun with Zulu and see the whites of their eyes, as Jay will understand. And then we have an American movie, let's say that. So yeah, Trouble with the Curve. See, I always wanted the Clint Eastwood one, and the first one we get isn't a western. So there we go. So that's all I
Oh,
have to
that's
say.
true.
Yeah, I want a western. I want one of his westerns, spaghetti western. Give me a spaghetti western. But at least
get
it's a
there.
bit. We're gonna get a little bit lighthearted, and what we don't know is on that day what the wheel will turn. So that's the greatest thing. But everybody, I hope you had a good one. Also, check out Sandy. Sandy, how many you got left?
It's got to be like 14.
14 left to go.
I'm
It's
really,
14.
yeah, I have, and I was teaching a class today, and one of the students in the class lives in the area where I'm doing my next video, and I don't know, just coincidentally, he told me where he lived, and I was like, oh, I'm literally around the corner, and he said, oh, from the roof of my third floor, we can see into the courtyard of this building that I need to film, and I'm like, I'm there, like this total stranger. Sorry, I'm putting this on the internet now. Total stranger. Yeah, I'm on your. I'll be there. Just put me on your roof. I got it. I got this. I got this. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm coming close to the end of that thing, and then I got to get back on some of my other historical projects. I still have hundreds of clips documenting some Civil War marches and encampments and things like that. Not generally of interest to this crowd, but I certainly appreciate
For me.
everyone's. I know I really appreciate everyone's who's been really supportive. I'm not a YouTuber. I just want to share my research. So thank you all for your support.
No, absolutely. And I thoroughly enjoy your content, to be honest. There's some beautiful buildings, some beautiful nature. There was one just the other day. It was a little like waterfall, something that was beautiful.
Oh
No,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely beautiful stuff.
So, Jay, except for your amazing content, I must say, if anybody hasn't subbed, just for Penguin. Just for Penguin.
Yes.
You're loving Penguin. You're loving the Penguin
It
at
is
the
good,
moment.
and I'm a little
Yeah.
overdue on.
Oh.
I am horribly behind. I think I'm like 3 episodes behind on reviews, so
What we
I need to catch up, or I might just do a wrap up on the last few. Where I think
Are we
it's
episode
6
6?
this
Yeah, no,
weekend.
is it? No,
Yeah,
can't
because
remember.
I missed the review for 4 and 5, and I think 6 is this weekend.
Oh,
So I've
you
unfortunately
missing them.
fallen behind. So I'm gonna have to do maybe like a 3 episode, just quick one, and then try to finish off the series strong. But definitely check out that show. I think it's really good. I've thoroughly been enjoying it.
But yeah, but I must say I've actually thoroughly enjoyed your breakdowns. I must say,
I appreciate that.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it.
It's nice to have a good show that
it
got a
is.
little bit of that water cooler talk type of thing. Where like after every episode in the group chat with my friends, everyone's like, "You guys check out Penguin. You check out Penguin." Like,
yeah,
haven't had that.
And this is the thing, because my
crazy.
girlfriend doesn't normally like it, and then she like that DC Marvel kind of crap. She gets bored of it, and she's like, "I'm liking this," and then we can again. It's like this. Have a little talk. Have a little talk. So she's actually liking it. And I keep forgetting. I'm keep forgetting who the Penguin is. Actor.
Oh my god,
Colin
it's so
Farrell.
easy.
Oh my god,
he loses himself in the
Oh,
role.
literally, he's
I
brilliant.
still can't believe that's him. I cannot believe that's Colin Farrell.
You watch it, and then you go, "There's little insights, a little smile now and again." You go, "Oh, that's him," and the rest of it, I'm in the world. I'm in the world, and I like that about it. So far, boom. Whoever the writers were, so far, I know we've got like what 2, 3 to go, and then we're going to probably connect to the next the Batman movie.
Right.
But so far, I'm liking it. But yeah, I must say, yeah, I've watched listened to your reviews. Thoroughly enjoyed. So yeah, so
So hopefully
give
more
Jay
of that
a
coming.
like and a sub right now. If you don't, I'm gonna
Thank you.
you.
No, definitely. Hopefully more. Not hopefully. I got to get back on track with those. I got to do some kind of maybe a quick 4 and 5, and then just jump right into 6, or maybe just get 6 out and retroactively do 4 and 5. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I got to get up to speed on Penguin reviews, but loving that show. Trying to think of movies I've watched recently that I've loved. Nothing that I've loved. I think I've reviewed the last few that I have. I still have to do one for that movie Wolves. That's kind of almost done, but has just been on the back burner because I've been a little busy.
I need to still watch it.
stuff.
I need to still watch it.
Yeah, it's not bad. Like I said, it's it's fine. The review will have more on it, but yeah. Outside of that, finally back into some streaming. Did a little bit this week. Really just one actually, and we'll look to do some more. But yeah, as always, you can find me here and popping up randomly with videos and streams.
Excellent. Myself, set for doing this. Looking after a very ill child at the moment. God bless him. He doesn't know what vomiting is. He did his first vomit, so that was good.
Such a bad thing too.
Yeah, and then you like, I bless you, but I can't. I don't know what I got to do. So that is it. So looking after him, he's a poorly one at the moment. So he's got it good as a 3-year-old. Apart from that, cleaning the brows and making sure it goes into the sink. I'm gonna do a little bit more gaming, but I need to do a couple of shows that were proper left field. I would never ever watch, but they were very, very good and very interesting because what they didn't do is they didn't tick the boxes in the modern day sense, and they just went to the book. They went to the book, and the book kind of made himself. Sorry, if you want ticks, they tick itself, and it was kind of really interesting. The books I would never read, but the shows are very good. But it was screwed over by the consensus of today's thing of only going, oh, we only got to do 10, 12 episodes. Instead, it's an old format. Like, the old days where you had like, a show with 20 episodes,
the 22 standard.
Exactly. Like what Buffy was probably like 30. Star Trek was
television.
Like now. So I've got a couple of those in the pipeline. I'm gonna do a couple of things. You'd be like, I reckon it's gonna be TV recommendations. So we're gonna do that.
Cool. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. And so otherwise, I think I've done quite well. I didn't fall asleep. There we go. Later than usual. I was good. Highlights it. So I've done quite well. I've got to probably go now back to some snoring. Snoring.
It's like almost 2 a.m. for you. Oh, we get
an
extra hour of sleep. Jay, congratulations.
No, it's not now.
Nice.
So,
cheers to that.
You get it. I don't get it. So it's now 1:45 at 2, or is it 1 o'clock?
Only 4 hours. Tomorrow it'll be 5 hours.
Yeah, but what time is it tonight then? Not now.
Now it's 8:45.
So so at 2 o'clock, if we carried on, it would flip back. Is it that how it works? I think
for us, it would go back an hour.
There we go. So at least I get to watch a little bit of ice hockey for a little bit of while. Find out how bad my team is going.
Don't watch the Bruins. I'll tell you that Edmonton?
Right now. What?
Who's your team?
I'm a Canadian.
Oh, that's right. You are
Canadian,
man.
Okay.
You are a Habs.
I'm a Habs.
I knew it was one of those Canadians.
Oh, I can't know an American team, especially Bruins.
For
my girlfriend,
the Bruins suck right now.
My God,
so.
my girlfriend is a Bruins. She lived in Boston. She lived in Boston for ages, and literally, when we say that, people go absolutely nutty of like, how can you date her or how can you date him? They just don't get it. Like that is a big rivalry.
That's
Red Sox exactly. And I'll be like, no, right, we're British, and they are like, oh, okay, I understand now. And then they're like, if you're from Montreal, Boston, you actually did that. The old was it Original Six, isn't it?
It's an intense, Original Six. It's an intense rivalry too. It's right there with Red Sox Yankees. Yeah, exactly. So a bit of fun. As always. So I'm gonna watch it, but I'm probably gonna watch a bit of ice hockey now. See what I don't know. Probably the first quarter's gone. Probably in the second period by now for most.
Yeah, exactly.
About 8, so.
You might get a West Coast game.
No, I can watch
3 or 4 more hours.
Yeah, oh my God.
If you stay up all night, you can catch a couple of those.
Without a
And then-
kid, and I used to do it, I would start. I would watch the whole ice hockey game and go 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
See,
I'm done.
that's the one
But I
nice
think it's
thing
like-
about being here is that whenever I want to watch European football games, especially the Premier League, it's all at like great times on Saturday, like 11 a.m. Saturday,
yeah, it's like
9
10 o'clock
a.m.
on Saturday.
It's totally fine for us. You poor guys get stuck with the late 2 a.m. starts.
That's it. Like, but the same with the advertisements. He just carries on. You're like, please stop, please stop. That's why I could never get into American football. I'm like, no,
Well, it's funny
just
because without divulging too much on stream, where part of my family is from, where they immigrated to America from, a lot of them, it's a European country. A lot of them quickly became hockey fans before any other American sports. Before any other American sport, because it was so easy to kind of put in the light of European football, where it's simple, it's goal scoring, it's nonstop, kind of no commercials, the action's nonstop. You're going through the full periods, and it's a simple concept of puck goes in net, ball goes in net. It was easy for them to get that.
But there's a lot of
understand rules of basketball or rules of American football or baseball.
Yeah, but like ice hockey is like big in like Russia. Then you
have that part of Europe where it's
Czechoslovakia, like Germany.
Where my family's from, it's not popular whatsoever.
Okay.
But it was just so easy to kind of just say, okay, puck in net, ball in net. I know that. That's easy enough. Versus football, basketball,
and I like it, but then also you get a fight.
Yeah,
you get a fight. You get a fight.
Put them through the glass, which is always pretty fun.
But also, I say we're losing against the Penguins 2-0 at the moment.
Yeah.
End of the second.
Ooh,
End
we
of the
hate
second.
the Penguins.
There you go. So, but anyway, everybody. After that, we got sports. Not next time, but next time, unless you care, javelin throwing in Zulu, a sport. Maybe not so much, but until next one. I great everybody who's hanged out a little bit later than usual. Everybody who's stuck around in especially the UK and Europe. Thank you very much for popping in. Very much appreciate you. And remember, do your homework. Very much so. And if you do want to, read your books. But until next time, read the book, read the books, read the books. Until next time, read the books. Until next time, have a great one. I'm going to go and get some sleep, hopefully. But bye for now. Film Club, again, Zulu. Go.
Cheers.